Good morning, gentlemen. How are you this morning?
I am doing well. This afternoon, Jordan, this afternoon.
Dude, I work until 10. This is morning for me.
I've been up since 9, so I'm fine. I
I
was
mean,
watch-
I did not go to sleep last night until about 5 a.m.
oh, damn. I was watching some stuff about Colts earlier this morning.
Colts
Yeah,
as in the
you
horses?
you and your football.
No, first it was like I watched a documentary about Jonestown basically, and that led me down a rabbit hole.
Oh, Colts.
Yeah, Colts. Cults. Not
Cults.
not the football
Colts.
not the football team.
Okay, well,
Okay.
the way you said it, it sounded like Colts. It's
Yeah,
Colts.
we both heard Colts.
No.
I was
No.
like, horses? What?
No, no, no.
Anyway, I will be the host for today. My name is Jay. I am known as the resident douchebag of the group. By the way, welcome to BCJ Cast with the BCJ Bonfire Talk.
The
Joining
Bard
me
Circle
today,
Jerk.
yes, the Bard Circle Jerk indeed. Um, Joining me today is Brad, also known as the Walking Shitpost. Go ahead and say hi, Brad.
I am a shitpost, and Castle Crashers is game of the millennium.
Yeah, sure, we'll go with that one. And then with us we have Corey, which is the lovable group punching bag.
As you can see, I was just punched earlier.
This was not planned.
See, Corey just drops those little gems every once in a while in a conversation with him, where he'll just like mispronounce something or just go completely off the reservation when it comes to whatever he's talking about. Where you have to look around like the table and just go, "Did I hear what I just heard?"
Yeah.
I can confirm that that happens quite often. Anyway, today on BCJ, we will be discussing different things about video games, looking at different video game genres, why we like or dislike them, the pros and cons of them. We'll also be exploring the idea of games as art versus games as entertainment, because yes, there is a difference, and you should know it. And we'll also be talking about expectations in games versus the harsh truths that we are many times forced to deal with and look at to understand in order to better appreciate what's there and sometimes more importantly what's not there. So, any initial thoughts on these topics?
I'm down.
Brad, I understand you have some hot takes today.
Yes, I have two very hot takes that I will be dropping later in the episode when we
I
start
I,
talking about games as art versus entertainment.
I will be looking forward to that because
I can't wait.
debate is one of my favorites. Um, so to move on to the first genre of games, we will be talking about first-person shooters. Probably one of the most iconic currently in gaming.
Halo.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think it really started with Halo. You've got Halo, you've got Call of Duty, Battlefield, Medal of Honor, uh,
Well, actually,
Overwatch.
if we're
I mean,
talking
that's
if we're talking original like OG first person shooter, you got to go like Doom or Quake.
yeah, Doom and Quake obviously are
Duke
the real
Nukem.
starters. Yeah, Duke Nukem. I feel though Halo is really what caused the first person genre to explode. You know,
Mm-hmm.
with the introduction of multiplayer. That that is really what has caused first person shooters to take over gaming as a whole.
Halo 2 is what got me into gaming in the first place.
Yeah, I know a lot of people that it's, you know, Halo 1 or Halo 2. I guess I should call it Halo Combat Evolved, but that's really what got them started into gaming.
I think one of my first person shooters was Medal of Honor: The Rising Sun.
Yes, I remember playing that game way back in the day. That and Frontline.
Yeah.
Those two games were my first introduction to the I guess you could call them the modern first person shooter. I mean, I played 007 GoldenEye back on the N64. Um, I was terrible at it, um, especially when playing against Oddball. But I think
Fuck
everybody loves.
Oddball. All my homies hate Oddball.
Yeah, exactly. So whenever it comes to first-person shooters, the first thing that really comes to mind is obviously the multiplayer, which is what we touched on a little bit ago. Um, Brad, I know that you are more of a single player fan. Have you played or have experience with many first person shooters? Are there any that you've really enjoyed?
Yes. So I was real big into like multiplayer when I was playing like Halo 3. I would always like every weekend. At that point though, this is important clarification. I didn't have my own system at that point.
Mm. Yeah, no, that's definitely a problem.
So I would just be at like friends' houses and stuff like that playing as the guest on these multiplayer games. I was real big into Halo 3. Halo Reach played probably close to 1,000 hours of multiplayer. Shout out to the SWAT SWAT team deathmatch, um, and Black Ops. I was real big into multiplayer over at my neighbor's house playing Black Ops. So
Yeah, I was.
I've got a decent amount of experience. However, now that I actually own a gaming PC, an Xbox, and a PS4, I now that I actually own my own systems, I don't play multiplayer at all.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of one of those funny things. It's especially with the era of split screen, back about a decade ago, multiplayer was kind of like the go-to thing. Playing with friends. Nowadays, it feels almost like multiplayer in most first person shooter games is what has been optimized. And I feel like that's kind of hurt the genre a bit. I mean, we saw, what was it, Corey? It was Black Ops 3, correct? That had no campaign to speak of whatsoever.
I think it was Black Ops 4 that had no campaign. Black Ops
That's
3,
correct. That's
yeah,
correct. My bad. It was Black Ops 4 that didn't even have a campaign. It had like the introduction on how to use different players' like abilities, and that was it. It was not a campaign. There was like a little bit of a story there, but you could finish the whole thing in like an hour and a half. It was
yeah.
really, and I feel like Black Ops 4 was really hurt by that. Blackout mode was cool, going into the battle royale stuff, but it I feel like it really hurt the game, especially considering Black Ops 4 multiplayer was not that good.
I
Yeah.
My biggest thing with first person shooters is I legitimately haven't played a Call of Duty game since Call of Duty Black Ops 2. Um,
Hmm.
Precisely because there's no story, and I also like lost interest in multiplayer games. The reason I don't play that many first person shooters anymore, even like games that I have massive nostalgia boner for, like Halo, like the Halo series, I don't have I don't have any interest in playing those games because there is no story to speak of. So I haven't played a first person shooter in forever because there is no story. It's all multiplayer. That's the only thing those games focus on anymore is just the multiplayer. Which if you're if you don't have any interest in it like I do, you don't play them. You don't pick them up. They're not worth your time.
Yeah,
I
no,
would
you're absolutely right.
One of the reasons I've been very interested in Black or Call of Duty Cold War is because I heard it has a good story, and
Yeah,
this
it
would
does.
legitimately be like the first person shooter game I pick up if I end up getting it in 5 6 years at least.
Yeah, no. I picked up Call of Duty Cold War. I think the day after it came out because of a recommendation from Corey. Um, and it's interesting because we've played Cold War together, and the campaign I've played through most of it. I've not gotten through all of it yet. I still have a little bit to do, but the campaign so far is pretty good. It even has some parts of it which are almost like semi open world. You're kind of like allowed to kind of go where you want to go, do what you want to do, and how you want to do it. And that's definitely interesting for Call of Duty. They've really not done that before, and you've got side quests. Imagine side quests in a Call of Duty game. And on top of that, zombies is great, but it's really interesting because I feel like the multiplayer is so lackluster, so what do I want to call it? Disappointing, I believe is the word to use there. I've come to expect good multiplayer from Call of Duty games, and I have been massively disappointed for quite a few years now. I think Modern Warfare was the best we got recently,
Modern
but
Warfare was definitely the best.
yeah, and even then though, the Modern Warfare whenever it first started, the first couple weeks of launch was actually really good, very healthy. And as funny as it sounds, as Infinity Ward tried to make it better, they made it worse.
Yeah. Yeah.
It lost a lot of its appeal, and I think it's because they are focused so heavily on Warzone, which is their big cash cow. It still is. Um, I think the multiplayer really suffered.
I mean, the reason I enjoyed Black Ops so much was because it had a fantastic campaign you could play by yourself. It had zombies, which is still to this day my favorite game mode in any Call of Duty game. I remember getting to going just me and my friend getting to wave 100 on the original Black Ops. Shout out to Kino, uh,
Yeah. Oh
the
man, Kino
best map
brings
of
back
all
so many
time.
great memories.
Yeah.
Ascension was
Uh,
my favorite.
I mean that's one of the reasons I'm excited, and I'm probably am going to pick up Cold Wars because Zombies is back.
Well, and it's not just that Zombies is back. Zombies was in Black Ops 4, and that was pretty garbage.
It's
I
by
mean,
that
it
I mean
had its
by that I
it
mean
had its
it's an
shining moments.
yeah, by zombies being back, I mean like actually having an honest to goodness like good zombies mode.
Oh yeah, no, the zombies mode is very good. It is it definitely has moved away from the Black Ops 4 kind of the zombies mindset, and has moved kind of back towards the Black Ops 1 and Black Ops 2 era mindset. Um, and it's taken some of the best parts of Black Ops 3 zombies, which was a very good zombies experience, and kind of merged it with the Black Ops 1 and 2 feel. I remember first booting up zombies on Cold War and just being blown away by just like how natural it felt to kind of fall back into this older play style of Call of Duty Zombies. You're actually killing Nazis. It was Nazi zombies to start with, and now you're actually killing Nazis again. That was just like, oh my gosh, this is really going back to the roots. You have a return to a lot of some of that older weaponry. The wonder weapons. Oh, the wonder weapons actually feel powerful, um, which is something I don't really feel like we've had because wonder weapons have just been a dime a dozen for the last two um, zombies installments from Treyarch. So you really only have the DIE device and the ray gun, but they both feel very good, and I feel like a lot of the new innovations have brought new life to the game mode. Um, it's been very enjoyable to play it. The introduction of being able to exfil at certain rounds to get bigger bonuses to your account, the ability to upgrade from the main menu, be able to upgrade your perks and your weapons and your handling. Just by playing the game, like you don't buy the currency, you earn the currency. It's genuinely been. I almost feel like buying uh Cold War just for zombies is legitimate.
Yeah, no, I'm in that boat. I might buy it just for zombies. Yeah, because I lost interest because it felt like every Call of Duty game, like before the last couple at least, have just been like sort of cut and paste, different setting, different weapons, but it's all been about multiplayer. And
Yeah, and I
as
feel like that's been a real problem with first-person shooter games in general. Um, I think that's one of the reasons why I ended up liking Battlefield 1 so much. Um, it felt like it was its own thing, a World War One setting. You don't see that in many first-person shooter games because World War One is not what people think about when they think of, modern combat.
especially
Um,
with all the trenches and stuff.
Yeah, especially with the trenches. But it turns out when you throw a bunch of really shitty weapons into trench warfare, and you have primitive tanks and very basic planes, that's actually a lot of fun.
well, I mean, one of the biggest things, like early Call of Duty games had going for them, where they were all like World War II games, and you were in multiplayer and in the campaign and stuff like that, rolling around with shitty guns and shitty um what's the word?
Secondary equipment.
Yeah, well, that too, but like just you're not like there's no one good gun because they can all shoot one bullet at a time.
Yeah,
You don't feel
yeah,
powerful.
No, you don't
yeah,
feel powerful, and the playing field is level.
yeah,
Like even
yeah.
the best gun is not that much better than the worst one. So it's your actual gameplay skill that's important in those games, and I feel like a lot of that you know sort of went away.
And we're kind
Yeah.
of seeing that with Cold War, where everybody just basically uses the MP5.
Or the AK-47.
Yeah.
I mean, it's if you're I feel like if in some of these games, if you don't have the right weapon, you don't succeed. I mean, that was the other thing too. Like one of the reasons that I liked Halo, though. This is uh, I'm sort of I'm sort of contradicting myself, but like the Halo, the rocket launcher and the sniper rifle and stuff like that were always the pinnacle of the weapons that you could pick up in multiplayer. But the good thing about that is you never really started with those weapons unless you were playing in a specific game mode. So it actually took
Yeah.
skill to go and get the sniper rifle, get the rocket launcher, get the vehicle, whatever it is.
Hmm.
There's a much higher skill level required to get good in multiplayer in those games than in some of the more recent Call of Duty games.
Time for my own personal hot take. I've never been a real big fan of Halo. Um, I played it with friends, just like you did, Brad, because I didn't own an Xbox back then, and I played Halo One and Halo Two with them, and I never really enjoyed it. And I don't know if that was because I had played, Medal of Honor, or Call of Duty back then, and kind of more had that feel for the World War II era gameplay. But I never really enjoyed Halo, and I've gone back to it a couple times to try to play it, and I've never really got into it, and not not really enjoyed playing Halo as much. And as a gamer, to say that, it's almost like you become a pariah. It's like, how could you not enjoy
It's
Halo?
blasphemy, is what it
It's
is.
blasphemy to not enjoy
Halo
Halo.
Halo never really interested me either.
Oh my god, I can't. These two are the ones that I decided to start the podcast with. Jeez, we're only 20 minutes in. I see my mistake.
We all have gaming PCs, but only us two only play on PS4. I've never had
Yeah,
an Xbox. Probably never will get one unless
I
like
I,
a few
I
years
have an
down the line.
Xbox. It doesn't see a lot of use. That's a whole different talk. The
Well,
differences between the Xbox One and the differences between that and the PS4.
that's episode 2, I think.
Yeah, that's probably episode 2.
I'm down for
No,
episode 2 with
see,
that.
you guys don't have any excuse though now because all I think all the I know a couple of the Halo games have come out on PC.
Yeah,
I know
yeah,
Halo
yeah.
Reach is.
I
Well,
think
technically, every single game should be available on PC because of how Microsoft has implemented with the PC so heavily. There's no such thing as an exclusive Xbox game anymore because they're all available to play via the Microsoft Store.
Yeah, which I'm all for. I'm all for. But yeah, that being said, you guys don't have any excuse to not get into Halo now.
I mean, I have Halo 5, I believe it is, and let me just
the
say,
worst
not
one.
impressed.
Well, that's the thing. No one in the Halo community was that impressed with Halo 5.
To be fair, I've seen that. But like I said, I've played every single Halo game. I believe I've played 1, 2, 3, Reach, ODST. I didn't. Was there a Halo 4? I believe there was. I don't think I played that
Yeah,
one.
there was a Halo 4. That was the first game made by 343.
Okay.
I think it was the second. Wasn't Reach 343?
No, I think Reach was the last Bungie game, I believe.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
All right.
Um. Yeah. Uh. Yeah. Not a big fan of Halo. Used to enjoy Call of Duty a whole lot, especially Black Ops and Black Ops 2. Those two were probably some of the better COD games that have ever come out. I mean, a lot of people make the argument for Modern Warfare 2 and 3. I can see that argument. I don't necessarily agree, but I definitely understand it.
My first actual multiplayer FPS experience was on MW2 through my stepbrother's Xbox 360. I had some fun on it. I wasn't really particularly good, but my own actual where I can actually continue to play multiplayer through a game system of my own was Black Ops 1. And to this day, I would consider that, even though rose colored glasses and nostalgia basically that was my best FPS experience. I loved all the guns. I loved the setting. Like, all the maps were pretty good. There weren't really that many terrible ones. I
Yeah.
I thoroughly enjoyed Black Ops 1. Black Ops 2 would probably be my second best, and I think after Black Ops 2, I think Call of Duty just started going on to a downturn, and it had like a little blimp of hope from Modern Warfare,
Hmm.
but now with Cold War, and you can see that Cold War was kind of rushed. I think
Yes.
I think Call of
After Sledgehammer dropped out, that really became apparent.
Yeah, I think what Call of Duty needs to do is what Assassin's Creed did, like with Origins, to bring a breath of fresh air back, is just take a year off, continue make more progress instead of doing this yearly development cycle. You're just going to exhaust all your resources, and that's what uh, uh, Cold War feels like. And like, zombies budgets have been cut, but everybody's just been playing zombies because nobody really cares about multiplayer anymore. So
Yeah, well, it's. I don't think it's because that nobody cares about multiplayer. I think it's because multiplayer is such a disappointment, and that's kind of become the mainstream opinion is that this Call of Duty is not what you want if you want to play multiplayer with other people and have fun. This Call of Duty is basically zombie central.
yeah,
A
especially
lot of
with
zombie YouTubers have even, come back to just to play this particular zombies, even though they've almost quit at that point because zombies was pretty bad with Black Ops 4. The ending of the Ether storyline with Black Ops 4 was a pretty massive disappointment. It was basically, for those that don't know, it was basically, oh well, it we're just basically hitting the reset button because that's the only way out of this timey wimey bullshit we've created. So basically, everybody dies, nobody wins, and that's the end of it. Because the only reason that all of this exists is because we were messing with 115, and that was like, okay, that's kind of a shitty end to what was an amazing storyline.
I remember a meme. It was the Key and Peele sketch where Jordan Peele was the president and he was like, like he was like hugging all the black folks and shaking hands with the white folks, and it was the zombies community, and the people that he hugged was Black Ops 3, Black Ops 2, Black Ops 1, World at War, and shook hands with World War 2 and Black Ops 4, and I'm just like, yeah,
Yeah,
that's fair, that's fair.
yeah, no, that's pretty accurate. In fact, uh, time to admit some things. I actually, on the day the final Black Ops 4 map launched, I was so excited because it was the end of of this storyline that I had been following, geez, for over a decade at that point, and I actually called off work just so I could play it when it launched. And I remember being so freaking disappointed at it. Just be like, I called off work for this. Um, it was really really sad.
Well, I mean, I think one of the things with Call of Duty, and I think Corey definitely touched on it, is one of their biggest problems is just a new game every year, to the point,
Yes.
and they're so multiplayer focused that you're essentially all you're doing is replacing the guns and putting some new maps, like putting in some new maps, but like the gameplay itself and the whole point behind multiplayer stays the same. And it turned me off because it was like, for as good as Black Ops 1 was, I would have loved to have for that had to have been like the multiplayer platform for a couple of years. That's one of the
Hmm.
things that I think Halo does way better than Call of Duty,
Yep, and I
is
agree with that.
they
Yeah,
don't come out with a new game every year. So if you are in love with Halo 3 like I was, you were playing Halo 3
for
for
3 years.
for 3 years before
Reach. It was
Reach
Reach.
came out. So I mean, you're stuck is the wrong word, but you're stuck playing the game that you love, as opposed to the entire multiplayer community moving on to a new game every 6 months
And
to a year.
I think Halo 3 still has a community on the Xbox 360. It's not that big, but it's still there.
Oh
But
yeah.
That should tell you all you need to know about, like, you give players 3 years to fall in love with the game and to get good at the maps, with the weapons, with the whatever you want to call it. You give players time to get good. They fall in love with that game, and then they don't leave. There's a reason Halo 3 still has a community. Reach still has a community. Reach, by the way, because of the new
PC.
PC drops, like, that community has grown for the first time since Reach dropped, which I
Mm,
think I was in ninth grade or eighth grade. So I mean,
mm.
it's back, but that's the problem with Call of Duty, is they don't, it's a new game every 6 months to a year, and you only really play those for multiplayer. At least most people do. I mean, there's a subset that play zombies and stuff like that, but I think the majority of people just play it for multiplayer, and so
Yeah.
they're forced to buy a new game every 6 months because the entire community goes with them.
I
Yeah,
think
and one of the nice things though is a couple months ago I was playing on my PS3 and I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna boot up the original Black Ops and play some zombies or something. And I hopped into multiplayer and I was actually able to load into a match pretty quickly. There's still a lot of people that are playing Black Ops 1 and, as I found out, Black Ops 2 on the PS3.
Because
there's a
those are
lot.
those are the best, those, in my opinion, the best Call of Duty games. I mean,
Yeah, they
the
are.
other thing too, the for a Call of Duty game, Black Ops and Black Ops 2 had an absolutely fantastic story. I mean,
Yeah.
like, when I finally got, excuse me, when I finally got a an Xbox 360, I bought Black Ops, despite the fact that, I think two or three new Call of Duty games had come out, just to play the campaign a final time. You
Hmm.
know,
One of the big things that I really kind of disliked about Cold War was it didn't even bring in new guns. It just brought in the old guns from Black Ops 1 and just gave them new names, and they don't
Yeah,
feel like those guns anymore. Like
yeah,
I remember just going ham with the Galil or like even like the FAMAS, even though the FAMAS was really cheese in Black Ops 1. It doesn't feel like that anymore. Like it just disappointed me. I'm just like
yeah.
I want to go back to like where I can just get the Galil with a suppressor and just be able to go ham.
I feel
But
like a lot of that is the maps, though.
oh yeah, the mat like
These maps that we have on Cold War are bad. They're mostly bad, and the fact that there's so few of them at launch, you only have realistically 6 maps. Technically, there's 8, but 2 of them are just larger versions of two of the other maps.
I did play Nuketown. It's Nuketown. That's it.
Well,
It's
Did
that's
they?
the
Oh,
thing.
okay.
That's the thing with these Black Ops multiplayer games is if you have bad maps, that's your entire multiplayer experience down the shit, like down the shitter. It's
Oh yeah.
the maps are so important in these games because every 6 months to a year, the community goes with them. That if you bring 20 shit maps, that the entire multiplayer experience suffers. I mean, there's a reason why I think in every Black Ops since Black Ops 1 Nuketown's been involved because that is such a fantastic map. I don't think they've been able to top it. So they just keep bringing it back for now the 5th game.
you
And
guys
one of the interesting things about that is, right? So Nuketown was great for Black Ops 1. On Black Ops 2, it was Nuketown 2025. That was that one, right?
yes.
Yeah, it was. And that was a good map. Interestingly, Nuketown on Black Ops 3 and Black Ops 4 was not nearly as good. It was the
Because
same map, but because of how
the spawns.
because of not the spawns, it was the guns and the gameplay changes that resulted in it not being nearly as fun of an experience.
I mean,
Want to
that's
hear something interesting actually about
Hmm.
Black Ops 1 and Nuketown with me?
Hmm.
My Black Ops 1 disc was scratched and I could never really play Nuketown.
Oh
It would
man, that's disappointing.
yeah, it would freeze on the loading screen. So like once me and my friends hopped over to Black Ops 2 and we were able to play Nuketown again, my friends were all clowning me like this is what you were missing.
Yeah,
well, I think
yeah.
honestly one of the things that could help bringing like multiplayer back is just release whether it's DLC, free LC, whatever, for Cold War, for any of the newer Call of Duty games, is just bring back a greatest hits of maps. Because Nuketown,
Hmm.
the first Nuketown, fantastic. I remember Rust on MW2 being the end all be all of multiplayer maps.
And they added that into Modern Warfare. There
still
was Rust
waiting
on the new Modern Warfare.
still waiting on that Biden 1v1 Trump in Rust.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you saw that meme too.
Yeah.
it's got to be snipers only though. That's the only way to
Yeah.
play Rust. One
Boot
v
up,
Yeah,
boot
I
up
think that would be
NW2,
interesting.
give them both interventions. They'll sort
Yeah.
them out.
I remember me and my neighbor. We had a snipers only 1v1 in Rust. We were only playing to I think 25, and it legitimately went about 3 hours because we knew
Yeah.
the maps so well that it was near impossible. Like we spent like 20 minutes in each spot trying to get a single shot on the other player because one of us was hiding in the cargo container and the other one was on top of
The
the
oil rig.
the oil rig, or I was on the oil rig and I knew where he was because we were also playing split screen, so I did a little bit of
Was
screen
that an
peeking.
oil rig or was that like an exhaust
I have no
vent?
idea.
I have no idea. It was a structure.
It was
Yeah.
it was an industrial structure of a large size in the middle of the map. That's what we can call it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But so what is your guys' experience with like third person shooters?
Well, let's see. Third person shooters, immediately off the top of my head, I instantly think of Gears of War.
Yes.
Gears of War. Now that is a great Xbox exclusive game series.
Yes.
I definitely love Gears of War. That was a great series. And then you have the counterpart to that, which is the Last of Us series. And I am hesitant to call it a series because Last of Us Part 2 was not great.
Beep,
What
beep,
are you
beep,
talking about?
beep.
They won all the awards at Golden Joystick. Obviously, it's great. It won the Ultimate Game of the Year.
Anyway, going back to games that were actually good, The Last of Us Part 1. Um, and one of the things that I feel a lot of people, again, we're going to be talking about multiplayer here. Most people ignore the fact that The Last of Us Part 1, I guess you can call it now, um, it had a multiplayer that is probably the best multiplayer I've played on any game ever.
It was a
I
really
can't
good
tell you,
experience.
I
Yeah.
cannot tell you how many times I have gone back just to play the multiplayer.
Still has a
And it's
community
because
too.
yeah, and it has a massive community still, and that's because of how good it was.
Uh,
I don't, Brad, have you ever played The Last of Us at all
I have not. I did not have a PlayStation like
back during that time?
when it came out, and I never I have one now, but I barely play it because I've been I'm part of the PC master race now, I guess you could
I,
call it.
I mean, technically, all three of us are in a way, but
yeah.
we still will play on the PS4 for especially multiplayer stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a game I've always wanted to play because
I
I
I
heard
have
so many
I
good
have the
things.
physical remastered copy for Last of Us. I can lend it to you.
So do
Yeah,
I. I actually have it downloaded, so I can just give you the disc for free.
Yeah, I was gonna say we both have a copy to give to you if you do want to play it.
I
Yeah.
do. I do want to play the story, but like I said, I'm not a multiplayer. I'm not a
I
multiplayer person anymore.
I think you should pick up just maybe a month of PS Plus at some point just to give the multiplayer a shot because it is a unique experience. Because there's a bit of a scavenging aspect to it where you have to go and find, resources to build things like Molotov cocktails, nail bombs, healing kits, and all these kind of things where otherwise all you have is your main gun, which you can really only kill one or two people with before you're out of ammo, and a sidearm, which you can probably get one or two kills with before you're out of ammo. And that's assuming you hit every shot.
Yeah.
And so having to buy ammunition, buy body armor, find all these items that you can craft with to help you get kills or flush enemies out of cover, it changes the dynamic of how you play the game, and it really is a unique experience. I could sit here and talk at length just about how great it is, how great the maps are, most of the maps. Um, it is great, and I feel like one of the big reasons why I view The Last of Us Part 2 so negatively is because The Last of Us Part 1 had a very, very good story. It was not the best story, but it was very good, very enjoyable, and very emotional. Part 2 missed that on basically every mark. So the only redeeming factor would be the multiplayer. Now they've had, what has it been, 7 years to develop this game and the multiplayer. There is no multiplayer. There's no promise of a multiplayer.
I think if they
There's,
did say if they were going to get a multiplayer, it was going to be basically you're going to have to pay like another like $40 for it. It was
and that's incredibly disappointing. Um, but it really is almost a tragedy because The Last of Us was such a beloved game series, and the second game is there's such a polarized position. You have people that either absolutely loved it, or you have people that absolutely hated it.
it's
And
basically the sequel trilogy versus OT.
yeah, with whenever it comes to Star Wars, and I think we'll get into that in the second part of what we talk about, which is which is games as entertainment and then expectations versus harsh truths. But it's very the game was very disappointing for me having been such a massive fan of the first one.
The games
you're
the
not alone.
The
Yeah.
third person shooter that I find myself like liking the most was Battlefront 1 and 2.
Yes,
Yeah.
those were also very, very good third person games.
Well,
Yeah.
actually, here's a those were absolutely fantastic games, but they were also games that you could play by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I liked that aspect of them, which is why I still own both like a copy of both.
Yeah,
Um,
I have them both
uh,
on PC.
that's one of the things that disappoints me the most when it comes to multiplayer shooters is I think the same thing that happened to COD happened to Battlefront when they remade them for
Yeah.
Xbox One and PS4. Gone were like the aspects, like gone were the things that you could do by yourself, and it became just a COD ripoff in the Star Wars genre, like in the Star Wars universe, using Star Wars guns.
I
It
will
was
say
incredibly disappointing.
I will say Battlefront 2 really got off to like the new one got really right off to a really rocky start. But now it's actually really good to play. It's really enjoyable. It's a real, refresh from just your typical shooters.
that's
Like
good to hear.
yeah, Battlefront 2 nowadays is actually really fun to play.
Doesn't that one have a story?
It does, but nobody plays it for the story. It's
No
basically
one plays any multiplayer shooter for the story,
from
except me,
Hey,
I
from
Cold War's pretty good.
think.
from what I hear, it's basically BioShock Infinite, but in a Star Wars universe. You're just constantly put in like you're constantly put in like shooter boxes, and you have to
Mm,
kill the enemies and stuff like that.
mm. Oh, that's
Disappointing.
Yeah,
yeah.
I haven't
Anyway,
played the new Star Wars game though. The Squadrons. It
I
seems
haven't even.
it seems interesting.
Yeah. Anyway, so shooters, first and third person. Um, the pros of the genre. Generally great to play with other people and your friends when they're done right. I think we can all agree on that. I mean, that's kind of what got a lot of us started in gaming.
All three
Yeah,
of us.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, my foray into gaming began with technically what's going to be our next one, which is a platformer, which was uh, Super Mario 64. That was my introduction to gaming.
Okay,
Uh,
yeah, I could see that.
yeah,
I think I had I don't know. I don't really consider myself a gamer, although I don't consider myself a starting in gaming until I was like middle school-ish. But I had all of the Mario games I could get, all of the platformers I could get on my Game Boy SP, including
oh,
the Metroid series. Um,
I'll one up you there and say I had a Game Boy Gray.
ooh,
My
Yeah.
my first foray into games was the Game Boy SP as well with the Pokemon series.
oh, the wonderful, wonderful, wonderful RPG
Yes,
Pokemon.
the
Yeah.
wonderful turn-based RPG.
Yes.
Yeah. Going back to the shooters though, so pros good for multiplayer with your friend. Cons generally lacks in a lot of single player content. Unless you have a game that's specifically designed around the idea of single player.
Like Spec
Um,
Ops: The Line.
Spec Ops: The Line. We haven't talked about that, but that is a phenomenal, phenomenal shooter. If you haven't played it, you should,
It's on
or you
PC.
should at least watch somebody play it. Go in blind if possible.
Yes.
Um, some of the other cons is like what we've seen with Call of Duty is when you have yearly releases, they get very stale over time. Um, and the fact that for a lot of people, I feel like this was definitely true for me at points in my gaming lifespan. Um, they just in general become stale. There have been times where I've just stopped playing shooters entirely just because I'm so tired of shooters.
It is exhausting to constantly just play shooters.
Yeah, yeah, it really is. Um,
I haven't played a shooter in 2 3 years.
I think you'll enjoy Cold War whenever you pick it up. Then,
Yeah, I'm
There's
excited to
definitely
get back
going to be
into
a bit of a learning curve.
Oh, definitely.
If you do get it, just get it on PS4 so you could just play with me and Jordan.
Yeah, yeah. I was gonna say we'll be able to play together then.
Oh, we
Yeah,
can still technically play together. It's just we won't be able
Not
to
as
talk.
easy.
Yeah, we would have to be in game chat.
Yeah,
but yeah.
use Discord probably.
uh,
Moving on to platformers, that is our next genre to cover. 2D platformers and 3D platformers. Like I said in the last segment, my first introduction to gaming was essentially Super Mario 64. Um, One of the best Mario games ever. Fight me if you disagree. 120 starred that game so many times. It's incredibly enjoyable to this day. I will still boot it up and play it. On rare occasions, I still have my N64 and it still works, um, as does my copy of Super Mario 64. Great game.
yeah, a fantastic game. Um, I never had it. I never had an N64, but I have played that game. I have played Mario 64. Um, I had an old copy. It was a port for the Game Boy of Super Mario 2. I
Mm,
think it was 2.
yeah.
I can't tell you how many hundreds of hours I played that on car rides or before bed.
Yep. hmm
Um,
I remember doing that a lot as a kid too.
Metroid. I was a big Metroid fan.
Yeah.
I had all the Metroid games that came out on Game Boy Advance.
My first introduction to Metroid was Zero Mission.
I think
And
I
let me
have that
tell
one.
you, I still think it's the best Metroid I've played.
I'm gonna be honest with you guys. Never really got into the Metroidvania type stuff.
Boot 'em.
um,
Although
speaking
that being said,
speaking of
I haven't played Metroid in at least
forever, yeah,
10 years.
yeah,
I
probably a
think the
decade.
only like I haven't played a platformer in a while, but I know Jordan's been playing Hollow Knight.
So yes, I was actually going to say about how I'm not the biggest fan of platformers anymore, especially some of these really complicated ones. But I have been playing a lot of Hollow Knight. Hollow Knight, if you are unaware, is an indie game. It is a 2D platformer, and it is actually very similar to the Soulsborne genre. And holy crap, going into it, I did not know what I was getting into. It's phenomenal. It really is phenomenal. I've been enjoying the crap out of it. And if everything goes properly, uh, while you're watching this, you will be seeing a gameplay of me playing Hollow Knight very badly in the background. Whenever this podcast eventually comes out, which hopefully should be within the week. We'll see how long it takes to get everything together, upload this to YouTube, and
For everyone watching in the future, we are recording this on Thanksgiving.
yes, it is currently Thanksgiving of 2020. It is 1:41 p.m. Give you an
Don't,
idea of when we're recording this.
don't worry, guys. We're making sure our family we're having virtual Thanksgiving.
Our GPS coordinates are.
I wouldn't get into that.
No.
Oh my god.
Uh, I think I think I'm definitely on a watch list. I don't know about you two, so I
I
don't want to
mean,
I'm
be
probably
giving
on
away
one of
the
them.
coordinates.
I have been going very deep into cult leaders recently, so maybe.
Hey, you said it properly this time.
Yay!
Good on you, Corey. Good on you.
Thanks.
But
Um, but yeah, 3D platformers. Another really good 3D platformer that I don't think anybody ever talks about anymore was Banjo Kazooie. Anybody else play that one?
fantastic game. I love
Isn't it absolutely fantastic?
honestly, I think like the GameCube, the GameCube era was the
Mm-hmm.
best for the 3D platformer. Spyro is fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, or was that PlayStation? That was PlayStation.
that was
Spyro is
PlayStation.
PlayStation, but now it's on
You had Super
Xbox.
Mario Sunshine on GameCube. That was a good
Super
platformer.
Mario 64.
That was on 64, but that was redone a couple times. I mean, you can play it on the DS now.
Yeah. But that I think that was like the era. Wow, shit. What's the name? There's a GameCube game. Uh, I'm regret. I can't remember the name. It was another 3D platformer. It was the squirrel.
Yeah, yeah. The Bad Hair Day.
Yes, Bad Hair Day.
Conker's Bad Hair Day.
Yes, yes.
I think that was on the 64.
That was 64, man.
Yeah.
Was it? Oh,
Yeah.
I think I played it on GameCube. But no,
Possible.
that era was best for 3D platformer. I haven't played a platformer since then.
Yeah, I was gonna say 3D platformers have almost become a niche genre nowadays.
Yeah.
Everything seems to be oriented towards 2D platformers now.
Yeah. I think the biggest, like, latest major release of a 3D platformer was Super Mario Odyssey on the Switch.
That was barely
Probably.
a platformer though. That was more.
Um,
I don't know what you would call that. There are definitely platforming elements, which I think you can find in like almost every like modern release now. There's so many games that have platforming sections in them. I
Yeah.
don't know if you can call 3D
I
platformers a genre anymore.
I remember
and you know what? I feel like that's almost a fair assessment, but at the same time, it's that's 3D platforming is basically where mainstream gaming, as we kind of know it today, got its start with the original Super Mario Brothers.
I mean, we can legitimately just look at it from, like, the timeline of the Jack and Dexter series, where Jack 1 was a platformer, and then Jack 2 and 3 just evolved from that first game.
Yeah, and like I said, I don't think that's an entirely inaccurate description to say that platformers isn't really even a genre anymore. It's kind of been incorporated into every other genre.
Yeah.
Um, but at the same
The
time,
Uncharted series,
yeah,
fantastic platforming sections, but I'd almost consider that one more of a rail shooter than a
yeah,
platforming
that's a
game.
third person shooter. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and I mean, and again, we could have talked about that in the shooter section, but it almost does feel like it's a what a modern 3D platformer would be.
That is what the platforming genre I think has turned into. It's more shooters with platforming sections, or
Yeah. Trying
uh,
to kind of turn into an action adventure type game.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Hmm.
uh, the newest Star Wars game, Fallen Order.
Yes.
Oh,
Good game, by the
Fallen
way.
Order.
Fantastic platforming sections. I was never I haven't played a platformer. Tried that game and died many times.
I love Fallen Order, but god damn, is it buggy.
Oh god, dude. The system lag on that game is also pretty terrible.
Yeah, but I
Although I
I
will say
love the
this,
game.
I didn't enjoy that as much as I thought it would, but I am a massive Star Wars fan, and I'm glad that they are like starting to come out with more Star Wars games. Like
Uh,
For the
Disney is
first foray
using the
into that,
property
yeah, for
to
the first foray into a single player Star Wars game, it gets a pass from me. I enjoyed it well enough to say that I hope that there's another one. I
oh
hope they
yeah.
fix a lot of the problems
One
I
of
do
that
one.
too.
it
I
had.
you can find me playing Star Wars games. Like if a new Star Wars game gets released, I will at least give it a shot.
Yeah.
I
I
will
own
say
Battlefields, despite the fact I don't really play them because they're Star Wars games. Fallen Order, I gave it a shot, but I don't know. I couldn't get into it. But like back, um, again going back in time, both of the Force Unleashed games are some of my
Mm-hmm.
favorite at the
yeah. I will say one of the best things about Fallen Order is they made Darth Vader feel powerful again. We
Oh yeah.
we
Oh boy.
haven't had a powerful Sith Lord since what Darth Vader in episode, if we're going through chronological order, since episode 6.
Yeah.
Like we haven't felt a very powerful like bad guy in Star Wars since Episode 6.
I would say Palpatine felt powerful in Episode 3. I mean, he
Yeah.
went toe to toe with Yoda, and I don't want to say he
I'm talking
he
about like
kicked Yoda's
chronological,
ass.
but I'm talking about chronological order from
Oh,
episode
chronological.
1 through
Okay,
9.
yeah,
But I
okay,
mean,
no,
that's what made the reveal at the end of the game so powerful. Is that
Oh,
you've got this,
he didn't even have a health bar. It just said survive.
yeah,
yeah,
you've got this badass character, fantastic reveal, and you could feel like the palpable sense of danger that fighting him or him just even showing up came from. That was one of the things that I really liked about Force Unleashed. Though granted, you beat Vader in the first
Oh
one?
yeah,
You
you
beat
kind of
Vader in
treat
the
him.
first
You
one.
kind of treat him like a puppy later on in the games.
But the first, I remember getting to play as Darth Vader in the very first mission of Force Unleashed and being so excited that you could just throw Wookiees all around. Like
Oh yeah, that was
I think
great.
my first playthrough of Force Unleashed, I don't think I drew my lightsaber except to
mm,
deflect. I think I beat that first level by literally just throwing Wookiees from the tall trees.
Yeah. In Fallen Order, I was sweating when I saw them. I'm like, oh no.
yeah. No, it's a pretty phenomenal reveal. Whenever you do see it, it's just like, oh no,
when you
and you just get that survive.
I my butthole legitimately puckered when I heard the breathing start in that
Oh
cut.
yeah.
I was like, no, hold on, whoa, hold on, whoa.
Yeah, no, it's a pretty insane experience. But yeah, no, that's but like we were saying, that's kind of where 3D platformers have gone. Is they've mostly just gone the way of the action adventure game. There really is very few genuine platformers anymore. Um, and I think most you're going to find most of them either from indie developers or from Nintendo.
Nintendo always goes with Mario. It's a safe choice.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it is.
I mean,
Um,
those are they define the genre for
yeah,
20 years and
they essentially
still
created
are.
it as it
Yeah.
is.
So, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
I'm more of an RPG person myself.
I,
speaking of RPGs,
yeah, I think
the
we're
next
getting into
genre
that.
is RPGs.
Is it?
Brad, I understand that you have a hot take.
Uh, I do, but I'm gonna save it for later.
You want to save it for later?
I want to save it for the hype versus reality.
Okay, I think we can. I think we can do that. Um, so let's talk about RPGs. Corey, what's the best RPG you've played?
The best RPG that I've played like recently would probably be Persona 5 Royale.
I was gonna say. I figured you were gonna say that. That is Japanese style RPG.
If
Which
we're
is
talking about Western RPGs, I think my favorite one that I've played recently would probably be, even though it is technically made by a Japanese studio, would be Near Automata.
Near Automata.
um
Yeah.
Corey with the mispronunciations again.
Nobody
he's been calling it that since it came out. I've just come to give him a pass on it. Like, yeah, it is correct. It is, it is Automata. Um, by the way, I don't know if you heard, Corey, but there is a new Nier game coming out.
Oh, I already pre-ordered the White Snow edition. So I get
Okay, I didn't know if you heard or not.
Yeah, no, it's a remaster of Near Rep or remake of Near Replicant, which is the sequel game to Automata or
Okay,
Automata. So yeah, I already basically got the collector's edition pre-ordered.
not a surprise at all, considering how much you went on and on about that game whenever it came out.
Yeah.
But
Um,
yeah, no, the RPGs are legitimately what started pulling me away from like the first person shooter genre. Is when
and
I picked up a copy late, but I picked up a copy of Elder Scrolls Oblivion and Fallout
mm,
3, and
hmm
then have never looked back.
Yeah.
And you know what? It's really interesting because the RPG genre has also gone the way of the action adventure,
Mm-hmm.
which is something interesting that I don't think we've you know talked about whenever it's come to shooters. Shooters have kind of stayed true to their roots, but platformers and RPGs have both gone the way of the action adventure.
Well, I think
Again,
it's
looking at Skyrim, looking at Oblivion, Morrowind, you compare those to the RPGs of yore, which would be like the Final Fantasy 1 through 6,
Dragon
um,
Quest.
Dragon Quest. Those were all like kind of turn-based RPGs. Um, and nowadays, you look at some of the biggest RPGs in the genre, which would be Skyrim, Fallout, and those are more action adventures than they are RPGs now.
Well, I think it's one of those things like it's so hard to define the art, like the role playing game, because there are, again, like platformers, so many games that now use RPG elements, because I think it's one of the games that draw people in the most, what keeps them playing, what has them playing for 500 hours straight, are the role playing elements of those
Yep.
games, of the
Hmm.
original OG RPGs. And so I think a lot of you can see it like Assassin's Creed. You can almost call a role playing game, and I think it's listed.
Oh,
I think Odyssey and Valhalla are listed as role playing games on
Yes.
Steam. Um,
Yeah, and
speaking
they are.
speaking of Valhalla, that is coming in Friday.
No,
So,
nice.
so yeah, I got the gold steelbook edition, so I'm gonna be able to get it on PS5 for free as well.
but yeah, no, I mean
Whenever I get that.
they're
Whenever you can find one to buy that's
Yeah.
not $1,400 on eBay.
Yep.
there are just so many games that use those elements now because they work so well.
And they do. And I think that's a testament to how well that they work is that you have what are essentially action adventure games using RPG elements. Another game series that falls into this category is the Soulsborne genre. Technically speaking, they are both RPGs and action adventures, but it's interesting because you can play the game either as an RPG or as an action adventure, and they're both viable. You can completely ignore the mechanics of one side in some ways. Um, like with the Soulsborne genre, you don't ever have to level up. You never have to upgrade your equipment. You don't ever have to really buy much of anything.
Yeah, all you
You
have
can
to
just
do all
beat
you
bosses to death with your weapons,
all you have to
or
do to beat the Soulsborne games is just get good.
yeah, like really, it's just get good. There's no because it's not turn based because it is very skill based. It is more of an action adventure game. But then you can also go the opposite route. You can just go and like grind forever and level up to ridiculous proportions, upgrade your weaponry, and you can just go in and one shot people, one shot entire bosses without any problem. It's kind of funny in a way that you can do that. You can kind of play it as an RPG and just grind and grind and grind, or you can just ignore those elements entirely and just play as a man with your base weapon and just beat things constantly until they just stop moving.
Yeah. Well, I mean that's the thing. A lot of I can't even name really like the last real RPG that's come out. Most of them are just like they get listed as RPGs, and I get excited when I see a new RPG on the Steam store, or you know
I think Final Fantasy really is the last real RPGs that we have left, in
Yeah.
many aspects. Um,
Final Fantasy 15 was really good. I still need to finish Final Fantasy 7 remake, but Final Fantasy 16 looks decent. I think I need a little bit more information before I can give like a solid like first impressions like of just what the game will be.
yeah, and most of the other RPGs, other real RPGs left are basically MMOs at this point.
well,
World
I
of
mean,
Warcraft, BDO, Black Desert Online. If somebody doesn't know, and that's it. That's what RPGs have really, like, pure RPGs have gone to at this point.
Well, one of the I completely agree. Because if you look at where, for example, the Elder Scrolls series has gone and the Fallout series, the
Yep,
two most recent games that Bethesda have made have both been
have been MMOs.
MMOs with RPG elements.
Yep, yeah, and kind of, it's kind of an interesting, development of the genre. You either have the turn-based or semi-turn-based category, or you have the MMO, and that's kind of what we have left whenever it comes to kind of the pure RPG experience now,
Well, I
where
mean, so many
numbers
things.
matter.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. It's so hard. Like I don't think people would. I don't think a pure RPG would sell today because there isn't. It's all dice rolls. People aren't interested in dice rolls when they sit down to play a game. They want their skill to matter. They want their items to matter. They want to physically be able to beat a game without like
Having to
waiting
rely
for
on
dice rolls.
RNG.
I mean, that's one of the reasons I absolutely love the Fallout series. That's one of the reasons why I've only ever played Fallout 1 and Fallout 2 once, is because I grew up I grew up with games where everything you do matters, like your button inputs matter and stuff like that, and having
Yep.
to go back and play a game where you're just hoping that the you can win a coin flip, uh, is how you beat the game. It's just like those don't interest me anymore.
One
Yeah.
one of the best RPGs that still lives on is Pokemon.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's I'd
Yeah.
say I'd say Pokemon might be the only other true turn-based RPG left.
Yeah.
Although that's
No,
going open world too.
well,
Yeah.
it's open world, but it's still an RPG. I mean, Pokemon's always kind of been an open world game. I mean, you've had some gating, for some paths where, oh, you can't progress until you have, like, this ability, but there have been workarounds in the past, um, and I feel like, I mean, even the most recent entry, you have some open world elements, but you still have some, some gating, like, oh, you can't continue until you've done X.
Yeah, no, I mean
Another
there's definitely gating, but I mean I think that's I you know what I sort of take that back, because what I said previously, because the Pokemon games continue to be fantastically popular, and those are technically turn-based RPGs, but I unfortunately I don't think people really recognize those as turn-based RPGs. They just see them as the Pokemon games. I want to play the Pokemon games.
Yeah.
another another good game that I've enjoyed in the PS4 era that is technically turn-based RPG is the Digimon Cyber Sleuth Stories.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically Digimon but with a Pokemon turn-based combat.
Mm-hmm.
I've dumped many hours into both of those games, and with Digimon Survive coming out, which is going to be a survival RPG, which is really interesting. That your teammates and their Digimon die based on your actions, and I'm really quite excited about it. But it's just been in development hell for. It was supposed to come out, I believe, last year, and it seems like it's not going to be able to come out this year either.
Mm. Well, that's never a good sign for a game.
No, it's not. Bandai, get on your shit, make it release.
um, I was gonna say, one of the RPGs that I picked up recently that I was very surprised by, and I've actually enjoyed quite a bit, was Trails of Cold Steel, for the PlayStation. Um, I didn't know anything going into it. All I saw was a little bit of a, like a kind of like a teaser trailer on the PS Store. Um, and I was like, ah, it kind of looks cool. I have a love hate relationship with RPGs. My whole issue with a lot of them is they're either incredibly simple and it makes them not as fun to play, or they're so overly complicated that it's it's not as fun because you never feel like you're actually implementing all of the systems available to their fullest extent unless you're trying to, and that becomes a chore. And with Trails of Cold Steel, I booted it up and I started playing, and I got it on a sale. It was only like a couple dollars. And oh my god, did I have so much fun with that game. I mean, I have currently 50, 60 hours into it and probably still another 20 to go. Um, it has just enough systems to give you variety without being overwhelming. And the greatest part about it is there's 4 games in the series, and so I'm looking forward to be able to continue the story and continue that kind of combat because they've kept the same core combat, core abilities throughout the entire game series. Um, so I'm looking forward to that. That's been one of the only RPGs I've actually enjoyed recently, outside of Pokemon, obviously.
I have
But
to.
I mean, I've even fallen out of love with Final Fantasy. I mean, it was my introduction to real RPGs, and I've not been enjoying that as I got older.
It's such a watered down genre at this point, which is so disappointing because I do there are plenty of RPGs that I play constantly to this day, but
Mm,
everything now has RPG elements. So on Steam or on the Xbox Marketplace or whatever, they all show up as RPGs, and I'm looking through them and just disappointed at the games that are considered RPGs at this point.
yeah, yeah. I feel like I'm kind of in the same boat. I've kind of lost lost my the fire that I had for that genre compared to what I had, before. Like you said, they've just become so watered down. And like I said earlier, they've either become oversimplified or overcomplicated. And like talking about overcomplicated, Black Desert Online is one of the biggest MMORPGs right now. Yeah, outside of WoW. Um, and I tried playing it, and it definitely had some interesting elements. I was like, man, I could really see how somebody would, enjoy playing this for long periods of time. My problem is I don't have the time to sink, you know, 5 to 6 hours every single day into a single game.
Well, what
And that's really what BDO kind of requires of you to be able to play at any real level. Aunt-in-law, my aunt-in-law is a massive BDO player. Same thing with my uncle-in-law. They, I'm not kidding whenever I say that they have in a year, they will have that game running for all but maybe 40 hours in the year, which is usually because of power outages or random crashes or they close it on accident.
well, I mean, that's one of the things. All of those, all of those, all of those games require so much time that
Investment.
it's I don't have time. Uh, Otherwise, I would 100% be playing those.
Yeah.
One of the things, one of the first RPGs that really got me into it. Another game that sort of tore me from the first person shooter gamer experience was the Knights of the Old Republic series.
Yeah, there's another great RPG series. One of the
Fantastic RPGs, um, made by drawing a blank on the name. Um,
um I know who you're talking about. I don't remember the exact developer at the moment.
Dave Fioni.
the company.
The company.
Um,
Bungie?
no, it's not Bungie. Starts with I think it starts with a B. Gonna get flamed in the comments, but those those games were absolutely fantastic RPGs. And I was there's a Star Wars MMORPG that
BioWare. It was made
very
by BioWare.
BioWare.
yeah,
Thank you. They do the Dragon Age games, which again
Yeah.
are pretty good RPGs.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like the Dragon Age games do fall into that kind of classic RPG. They're not action adventures like some of them have become. Though Inquisition was a very interesting blending of the two. Um,
Yes,
I don't know
I
how I feel
consider
about it.
I consider that more of an action adventure than a true
I
RPG.
I and see, I'm the opposite on it. I think it's more of an RPG than it is an action adventure.
It was a good game for $7.
Yeah, you know
Well,
what? You're not
it's
wrong. For $7, it's a great game.
it's
Hey, for $20, I had a blast. I got it on a sale about 3.5 years ago.
I paid full price when it came out.
Oh, geez. I mean, for $20, I think it's definitely worth it. I think if you get it less than 20, it's definitely worth it.
It's there. The
I
only
wouldn't buy it at $60 though, but that's my opinion.
well, yeah, I made a mistake paying $60 for it. Although I've definitely gotten $60 worth of entertainment out of it. I've got
And yeah, it's definitely fair.
I think I've probably played through that game 15 or 16 times, probably about 500
Jesus,
hours total.
Jesus, man.
All I play is single player games, man. anytime I can get,
Yeah, yeah,
I
that's
can get
true.
anytime I can get my hands on a new single player game and sink 500 hours into it, it's well worth it for me. But yeah, no, those games are fantastic, and I recommend if anyone listening hasn't played those games, Dragon Age and KOTOR. Those are fantastic games to play. Fantastic stories and fun RPGs slash one action adventure.
Yeah, yeah. No, they are great. Great games to play. But it's it's kind of sad seeing that genre kind of die out. Um, but at the same time, we've also seen it being incorporated into other game genres to lesser extents to kind of help extend the playtime, which is good and bad.
Yeah,
I definitely feel like some cases it's like, oh, this adds a lot, and there are many other cases where it really detracts from the overall enjoyment.
well, the one thing when it comes to RPG elements, especially in like an action adventure game, it just like the actual honest to god RPG elements have to be incorporated well. Otherwise, it just makes an action adventure game bad.
Yeah, absolutely. Corey, do you have any closing statements on this?
Uh, RPGs are slowly dying out, but since they are incorporated in other games, they're never truly going to die off. It all just matters about like how well the games incorporate those ideas. Like I
Yeah.
think Pokemon's still going to go on for as long
Oh,
as
forever. Pokemon's
yeah.
gonna go forever until the end of the universe. It's never gonna
And
die.
I also hope the Digimon games start to continue their stride upwards. They're never going to be as big as Pokemon, and they're not shooting for that. What it seems like, I think they're shooting for more of adult audiences
And you know
nowadays.
what? I've been very like I did get to play Cyber Sleuth, and I was very impressed, by it. It wasn't really my kind of game, but I had a bit of fun with it, and I was impressed to see Digimon coming back because with Pokemon especially, Digimon like died a little over a decade ago,
Yeah,
maybe even a decade and a half ago, and then to see all of a sudden about 6 years ago, Digimon already kind of having this resurgence where oh, we're making games again, um, and to see that those games be good and unique. They're not Pokemon, they are Digimon, they are unique. uh, that was kind of interesting to see.
yeah,
uh,
like
Unexpected.
yeah, with the evolution, definitely. Like you don't you can't just reach a certain level. You have to reach certain stats. You have to sometimes you have to even devolve Digimon and re-digivolve them to get
Yeah.
enough ABI to get the Digimon that you want. Sometimes you have to combine the two. It was really interesting, and I really dig that. And I spent hours like at least 100 hours in like the first game alone, grinding my team up, and the last boss was even still difficult with like with all my spec'd out Digimon. It was still difficult to beat the last level.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely interesting to see that come back. Brad, what are your final thoughts on this topic?
I I think ultimately RPGs will die. They'll get incorporated into other genres. You won't be able to play you won't be able to play an RPG anymore. You'll have to play action adventures. I think even Pokemon's going that way with the newest generation. Still had the turn-based battles and stuff like that, but they're releasing more and more Pokemon games that are more like fighters, like fighting games.
You
Yeah, I've
know,
seen a few.
I think ultimately within a couple generations of Pokemon that either people
RPGs take a back seat to
to
other.
like more almost fighting game mechanics.
you know what Pokemon series that I wouldn't mind seeing come back? Like the type of games that Colosseum and Shadow or Gale of Darkness was.
Well, those
I
were
was gonna
those were
say my wife
essentially,
really enjoyed those.
Yeah.
but I mean uh, those were still pretty much like turn-based battles and stuff like that.
Yeah, but it was a very different setting compared to the original Pokemon games.
Yeah, they were a lot more adult from what I remember. No, they're not adult, but
Yeah.
they're far from the kind of childlike atmosphere that we've seen from Pokemon. I mean, playing Sword and Shield, uh, it was almost painful just how childish it kind of felt.
Well, I mean
Yeah.
that's the thing that sort of irks me with Pokemon, especially the newest games, is they don't like their audience is getting older and older and older, but the
And they
games,
keep staying, and I think they've actually gone backwards in maturity.
Oh,
yeah,
especially
I
like
mean,
with Sun and Moon. Oh yeah.
oh god,
That
Sun and Moon, Sword and Shield, I think were pretty bad whenever it came to that. I mean, you compare them to, I mean, like eco terrorism
yeah,
in
in Emerald and in the third generation, yeah,
yeah, eco terrorism versus cosmic terrorism
yeah.
in Generation Four, and then you have um oh the like the main bad Team Yell, they're just hooligans.
yeah,
Uh, and then oh the the two legendaries from Sword and Shield. It's just like, oh, they're big dogs, and the guy wants them to harness energy.
yeah.
Like
Energy.
It's just like okay.
And
like
that's the thing.
like
I like that if you look on YouTube, people who play like Pokemon, like people who play talk about Pokemon and stuff like that on YouTube are all people in their late 20s, early 30s, people that have been playing since the first, second, or third generations.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean, I've been playing since first.
I've been playing since the second one, and
yeah, same.
they the
I
game
am a
has
bit older
gotten
than you too, so
younger,
Yeah.
younger. Yeah, for reference for the listeners, Jordan is 3 years older than me and 4 years older than Corey.
yeah.
But they've gotten the games are getting marketed to younger and younger people. Although I can tell you that's not where the age only goes up when it comes to
Yeah.
the people who are still playing the
Well, unless you're
Pokemon
Benjamin
games,
Button.
unless you're
Yeah.
Benjamin Button. But I think he was a fictional character.
Um, I think I think the consensus is still out on that one.
Yeah, I don't know.
I
Um
mean, look at what's his name? I'm gonna get slaughtered by people for forgetting this guy's name. Uh, damn, I'm gonna get killed by this. Neo.
Oh, Keanu
Keanu
Reeves.
Reeves.
Keanu Reeves. There it is.
Although he's more
Keanu Reeves. I mean, he's been like you've seen the pictures. He's been around for easily 500 years,
well,
Yeah.
if
yes,
not longer.
but he's not aging backwards. He's just remaining the
I don't
same
know. He
age.
looks a bit younger than he used to.
Yeah, I think he's just I'm
Comparing
I
to the
think-
pictures of him in 1700, he does look a bit younger.
Well, I think that's more because like he dyed his hair or beard or
And that
something
could
like
be.
that.
Well,
Like
it
I
could
don't
be.
think he's actually getting younger. Because I mean, if you look at him in like Bill and Ted, he looks quite a bit younger than he does right now.
Yeah.
I will say that's why I'm happy about like the Digimon route with Survive, which is aiming for older audiences because kids don't want their friends to die.
Yeah.
And it's just a really interesting concept that they're going with, and that's what got me really excited is that it's not really marketed towards children anymore. It's marketed for teens and young adults who grew up with the franchise.
Well,
I'm not gonna lie. I kind of wanna play the Digimon Cyber Sleuth again because I definitely feel like it was a lot more mature than Pokemon, and I feel that that's the direction that they're heading is more mature ideas than what Pokemon can offer you,
I
which
have
I think is going to draw a lot of people in.
Well,
Yeah.
the thing with Pokemon and why I think that like ultimately Pokemon's going to end is I think Nintendo's going to keep the age, like the target market, the demographic for those games younger and younger and younger, while people who actually play them get older and older and older. And I think ultimately, like I stopped playing Pokemon games for a couple generations because I felt like I aged out at 16, and there are people
yeah.
in their 30s that still buy like every new Pokemon game. And it's just like
If
I bought the last two, played them for about 40 hours, and then was just like, isn't
if you want the
this isn't
cyber
for me.
if you want the Cyber Sleuth games, I do have them on Switch, and I could just lend them. I actually have the game cards.
I might take you up on that.
I
We
might
can talk about that at a later time.
I might too.
Well, I have.
Wait, you have a Switch, Brad?
I do.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
I bought it. I legitimately I bought the Switch to play the newest Super Smash Brothers game.
Okay. I also have the newest Super Smash Brothers game, and I can say that I've put about 3 hours into it and not touched it again. Not my thing.
That's fair. I mean,
I thought I would enjoy it more than what I ended up.
Same.
Doing.
If I'm not playing with Zach, I don't play it at all.
Yeah,
well, that's one of the few games that I will try my hand at multiplayer with is the Super Smash Brothers games.
I mean, I played the Smash Brothers back on the N64. I mean, I played that game a lot. I destroyed my friends in that game. And I've not been as much of a fan. I think whenever they increase the roster to just astronomical proportions, it's just not been the same.
You mean you don't like the 400 Fire Emblem characters?
Uh, I mean, I enjoy Fire Emblem. Again,
Speaking
talking about RPGs.
RPGs, yes, but also talking about strategy games. I think legitimately the Game Boy like the Game Boy and DS had some of the most underrated strategy games of all time. Sorry to like switch topics real quick, but do you guys remember the Advance War games?
Oh, Advance War, boy, that was one of my jams.
I still have the only reason I still have a Game Boy SP is
I am so
because
sad I don't have my SP anymore.
I will play Advance Wars 1 and Advance Wars 2.
2 was superior.
2 is definitely not my favorite though. I've forever wanted to get my hands on a copy because I can't find it anywhere. I still have a DS and I've been looking and looking and looking and I can never find. I'm trying to find a copy of Advance Wars Dual Strike.
Mm.
That one was my favorite. But yes,
I might have a way to hook you up with something like that.
I might just try and find it. I might just go the emulator route.
I was gonna say I know a place that has good emulators for a lot of things.
But those the Advanced War games underrated when it comes to strategy games. I don't think they get nearly
Indeed.
enough credit for how good those games were.
one of the reasons I really like 2 is you had all the different systems. They added in new units, new characters. One of the things I really liked was the ability to create your own maps. And one of the things I did is I recreated the D-Day invasion using the map.
Well, those they were. It's kind of weird just how many like little systems were in those games. Because yes, you could create your
Yeah.
maps, but you could also like uh
There were challenge maps that you could do. There was a massive campaign.
and the
Um,
fantastic campaign.
Fantastic. Absolutely great.
No leveling or anything like that. It was just each fight was harder than the last. So you would
Yeah.
play the campaign. You would play the campaign, actively get better.
Who was your go-to champion for that? Leader, I guess you could call it.
Honestly, and this might be controversial to all 7 Advanced Wars players. Um,
All 7 of us.
do you remember Sammy?
Yeah, no, Sammy was great.
Sammy had the best ability for that campaign. It was the reason that I played her most of the time was that
Hmm.
her ultimate, like her
Her
superpower.
ultimate to just drop the mech units everywhere.
Not only that, but part of that was you could conquer any city base or HQ in one turn.
Yeah,
If you
no,
were
that
if
was super
I
powerful.
would I would I wouldn't play. I would keep her superpower going for the entire game until I could literally just sneak a mech or an infantry unit onto the HQ. And sometimes there were a couple maps when I was real
That was
real
enough.
young, when I
Yeah,
was
that was enough.
real young, that were incredibly hard. I couldn't beat them like
Legitimately.
I couldn't beat them legitimately. So I just like I'd go to the Sam strategy of just like truck an APC the long way around the map as fast as I can, get a superpower, like avoid dying long enough that to get her superpower, and then just conquer the HQ in a turn.
Yeah, no, she was great. That was a really good one. Colin, I believe his name was, the rich kid.
Oh, the one he if I remember correctly, he was the one that had underpowered units but could get them out. Like
They were so cheap.
they all cost a lot less. Yeah,
Yeah, I think they were all at a 20% discount, but they just weren't as powerful. He on certain maps just destroyed everybody because you would just spam ranged units. That's all you needed to do is spam ranged units, and then just have like a wall of tanks to
yeah,
defend them.
yeah.
And you could just easily just like steamroll through a section without any problem. He was good for some maps, and then one of the other ones I really like, both from the same faction, Grit. Grit was great. I love Grit. Again,
Fantastic.
the range strategy of just all of my ranges are larger, and I just do more damage with them. It was fantastic.
Well, the one that I was always excited to get to, because for whatever reason, I don't know what it was. The power and ability was incredibly weird. What was the Yellow Comet girl character? I can't remember her
Uh,
name.
Sonya.
Yes, Sonya.
Yeah.
She, for whatever reason, would mess up the computer so bad because, like, you heard like her. I love how we just completely cut Corey out of the conversation.
Sorry, Corey.
But the
Continue, continue.
Nostalgia trip.
she would mess the computer up so bad,
Oh
just
yeah,
because they like I don't know if it must have been a coded thing, but like they could never tell how powerful she was, and so
yeah.
they would just attack the wrong things.
Oh yeah, all the time.
But yeah, those games are fantastic for who uh, anyone who enjoys strategy games or just
You have to play Advance Wars. It was
find
it
an
was it was
emulator.
legitimately one of the best strategy games back for the old for the SP.
I'd
It's
I'd
without a doubt one of the better strategy games out there.
I'd rank it above a lot of more recent strategy games I've
Oh,
played.
without a doubt. If I had to make a list of my 5 best strategy games of all time, I think Advance Wars 2 would be up there, probably at number 1.
Yeah, no, find those games, emulate them, play them. get back to us. Tell us what you
Do
think.
whatever you need to do to play them because they're
Yes.
fantastic games.
Yes.
Speaking of strategy games, other strategy games, Brad, there's another strategy game that you're a massive fan of.
Yes, I am absolutely in love with
Addicted to.
Addicted to. Yes, I put almost. Hold on. Let me pull talk for a little bit. I need to pull up my my hours played on Steam quick.
I like to watch strategy games play, but I don't play them
Yeah,
myself.
watching strategy games is also a lot of fun.
Yeah,
I'm a massive strategy game fan, so I've got obviously games like Hoi 4. Hoi 4 is a great game. Hoi 3 was also great. I'm also a big Total War fan. Other games like you've got Crusader Kings 3, Victoria 2. Again, anything by Paradox is just a great strategy game.
they're great games. Just hate the way that they market them.
So
Yeah, no, that's fair. And then you have other strategy games, other ones that I've become big fans of again recently. Games like Roller Coaster Tycoon is a strategy game in
Oh
the
yeah, it is.
strictest sense. I've been playing that a lot.
City
The
Skylines.
Stronghold series, Stronghold Crusader, Stronghold 2, those were great. Those were and are great games.
so
Then
I
you have games
found
like RimWorld, They Are Billions, Frostpunk. Frostpunk's a lot of fun. That one's very interesting.
so I pulled up my stats. So for reference for the listeners, I've only had a PC for about 6 months, but I've always been a casual observer of people playing these on YouTube, the Total War games. In 6 months, I have 588 hours in Total War Warhammer 2.
Jesus Christ.
Not a surprise either.
No,
No,
it's not.
uh, they are some of my favorite. It's weird because they're a mix of turn-based strategy in the campaign and real-time strategy in the battles, and they blend them incredibly well, I think.
Mhm.
All of the Total War games I've loved. I started playing Total War Empire on a laptop, on a shitty laptop that I had about in like 2016. I got Total War Empire because it was like pretty much the only thing that would run on the laptop. Um, the funny thing is Total War Empire is considered like the worst one. But no, the yeah, all of the Total War games, I think, for anyone who plays strategy games, and if you have a PC, are worth trying out.
Worth your
There's
time and money.
so much fun.
Yeah. And I feel like, and this is going to get into a broader topic, but I feel like strategy games, for me, is kind of one of those fallback old reliables. Just because at this, I was talking about this earlier with shooters, but at this point in my gaming career, um, strategy games offer challenge, and that's what I'm looking for whenever I play games now. I'm looking for a challenge. I want to play for the challenge. I don't want to go in and feel like this god that's like indestructible.
It gets
I want
boring
to
after a
lose.
while.
I want to lose. I whenever I make a mistake, I want the computer or the AI or another person I'm playing against to exploit that and tell me that I suck.
To punish you, yeah, and
Yeah,
that's
I want
that's
to get punished.
that's one of those things that like I can't it's almost an exciting sort of masochistic feeling when like, oh, I made a massive mistake, and just watching like your especially in like Total War, you one battle can lose you a campaign. Just watching like things like your strategy crumble because you made like one crucial error. It excites me in a weird masochistic way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, and that's absolutely correct. And what's really interesting is whenever when people say strategy games, they obviously think of games like Total War. games like Hearts of Iron. But one of the things that a lot of people seem to forget is that card games also fall under strategy games. So we're talking Magic the Gathering, Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, the card game, Hearthstone. Hearthstone is another really popular one.
Gwent.
One that I've had so much fun with, which
Yes,
is
Gwent.
Gwent. Gwent is great. Another one, this one's less popular right now, but it is good. Legends of Runeterra, which is like the League of Legends card game. That's phenomenal. And then there's other there's single player card games as well that fall into strategy. Monster Train, which I don't think either Corey or Brad have heard of, is
No.
a phenomenal game. Monster Train is so much fun.
Yeah.
If
Jordan's the person to talk about strategy games with, because
yeah,
he's also, not only is he a massive video game player, but he's also an incredibly good card player, to the point where you were a ref. You ref
yes,
tournaments
judge.
for you judge. Sorry.
I was I was a level 2 judge for Magic for a short time period.
And by the way, quick plug. He's also designing his own right now.
Yes, I don't want to get into that too deeply right now, but I've actually started the process of creating my own card game. It's a lot of fun, a lot of interesting challenges that have come up with it. Designing something, thinking like, oh man, this is really cool and powerful, and then you start designing more things, and then you go back to that original thing, and you're like, wow, this is horseshit.
Yeah. As one of the few other people, me and Corey both, as one of the few people that
You're
have
the
played
only
this
two
one.
people so far that have actually play tested.
Yes, but stay on the lookout for that. That's
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. Definitely been an experience. And by the way, Brad, the other day after I got home from work, I sat down. I listened to a single song on repeat for about 40 minutes, and I created half of another faction.
oh, sick.
Yeah, so we'll see where that goes. Anyway, back onto the initial train of thought. Card games fall into the strategy category. And I feel like that gets underappreciated in the gaming world. It was for the longest time, but then with Hearthstone coming along, that kind of changed it. Hearthstone was a great card game. We're not going to talk about the state that it's currently in. Magic the Gathering was a great card game. We're not going to talk about the state that it's currently in.
Yu-Gi-Oh's still up there though.
Yu-Gi-Oh is actually. We're not going to talk about the state that one's in either. Card games right now are just not doing well because between power creep and what do I want to call it? Corporate greed. A lot of these games have kind of gone downhill in recent years.
Hence the need for a new card game.
Hence the need for a new card game. Plus, there's just inherent problems with some ways that card games do things.
Yeah.
I love Cards Against Humanity market strategy though.
Hey, Cards Against Humanity is another great strategy game, and I don't think people understand that it is in fact a strategy game.
You don't realize it's a strategy game until you sit down and play it with only one group of friends, and then you realize oh, this is a strategy game. Especially the other thing too, when Katie gets the card, when Katie becomes card czar, it becomes a strategy game where it's just pick. It's almost RNG where it's okay, this card has the highest percent of getting picked.
The thing is the card the card that you choose is a throwaway card anyway.
Yeah, but this is the throwaway card with the highest percentage of getting picked.
Yeah, I was gonna say because it's really interesting. Like when you play with Corey, if you have any card that is self-deprecating humor or about not wanting to live anymore, it's just well, this is gonna win with Corey.
Yeah.
If you play with me, if you reference anything that has to do with Hitler or Nazis or something like that, and it thematically works, it's just I'm gonna give that one to you just because.
Boy, does he like Nazis, dark humor.
I love dark humor, so Nazi references and Hitler references are always great. Whenever you're playing with Zach, any reference to violence,
Just brutality.
just brutality or violence, it's gonna win.
Yeah.
It doesn't even have to make sense half the time.
Yeah.
Brad's a bit more tricky. I think it should just make him laugh because
Yeah.
it's either incredibly vulgar or incredibly stupid. It could work.
I am the walking shit post. So
Yeah, the walking shit post indeed.
anyway.
No, yeah, strategy games. Final thoughts on strategy games, Corey, who doesn't play strategy games but watches them.
I like to watch Isara Production plays them, and I like to watch Spiffing Brit just utterly destroy them.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that they are I'd say they're like my second favorite game genre in that I enjoy, if I have nothing else that interests me at the time, I have about 7 or 8 strategy games I can fall back on.
I was gonna say I'm like if I look at my desktop here, let me get you guys talk for about 30 seconds while I count how many strategy games I have.
So what's speaking on the spiffing Brit, Corey? Wait, you did you get Warhammer 2?
Yeah, I have Warhammer too.
Have you played any of it yet?
I played like 5 minutes with Jordan. That's it.
Oh, against Jordan?
Yeah, well, with Jordan, like it wasn't really against him.
I think you need to give it a try. Actually, put a couple hours into there and tell me what you think. The only problem I have with some of those strategy games is, and this is my only gripe with the Total War series, is that you kind of have to buy all the DLC
Yeah.
in order to keep having fun with it. But I mean, it's not like they're not worth it.
You know what genre that completely dominates my desktop, where I actually had to create a whole entire folder for them just for my desktop? Visual novels. Technically, the game that I have the most hours played on Steam what is a visual novel that I just had it running in the background for like 3 weeks straight, and it's just like, yeah, 520 hours on this game. I'm like, that's not correct, but okay.
So how many do you have there, Jordan?
It looks like I have about 47.
That's a lot.
I have 52.
And that's only counting the ones that I have on my PC. If I also include games that I have on my iPad or on my phone or on any of my consoles or ones that are browser based, I'm probably looking closer to 60 to 70.
Yeah.
And that's not even counting like actual tabletop games, which that number just skyrockets.
Yeah.
I have 52 visual novels on my computer.
That's believable, Corey.
Corey, the visual novel gamer.
Yep.
I mean,
I was
not
playing.
bad.
I was playing one earlier. Honestly, it's about wolf girls.
You know what? The one genre that I'm disappointed went away. The point and click adventure.
Oh yeah.
There's it didn't go away, it evolved. Have you ever played The Room?
No.
Oh boy. You need to play yourself The Room and that entire series. They evolved into more of the puzzle genre. But they're definitely point and click adventures. Heck, next time you come over, dude, I'm just gonna give you my iPad and boot up The Room and have you play it. You will have your mind blown.
Okay.
And there's like currently just on like the iPad, I think you can get them on PC as well. I think there's 4 different games. If you want to play through all of them, you're easily gonna spend, if you're doing your first playthrough, and you don't look up a guide, you will probably spend about 20 hours between the 4 of them. They are honestly some of the most interesting games that you can play.
I'll have to check it out. Yeah.
I was gonna say they calling them point and click adventures seems weird. They're definitely more in the puzzle game genre, but they are very much in that same kind of vein and feeling as like the original point and click games like Myst. Yeah, they've got a very similar feel.
I'll have to check it out. Yeah. No, because I mean that's one of the things I remember. I remember playing.
Monkey
Uh,
Island.
yes, Monkey Island. Thank you. I almost
Mm-hmm.
drew a blank. The Monkey Island games were some of
Mm-hmm.
my favorite when I was like really really young.
Yeah. No, there. Yeah, I was gonna say The Room. And then there's because The Room was so popular and successful. There's actually been a couple other games that have come out in similar veins. What's the other one? I think it's called The House of Da Vinci. I might have to get back to you on that one. That game was pretty interesting. Again, it's classified as a puzzle game, but it's very much kind of a point and click adventure. Because it's solving puzzles, but there's very much an adventure and a story to be had.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll have to, like I said, I'll have to check it out.
Yeah.
But
But yeah, no, strategy games. I feel like they're definitely the genre that I partake the most in. Just because, like I said, I really play for challenges these days. I'm not really just playing to like have fun per se. Like being challenged is fun. Um, but even if I'm not having a quote unquote good time and I feel like I'm losing, I feel like that is entertaining
very.
for me at least. So yeah, it's about the journey, it's about the experience.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
we'll get into that later when we talk about games as art versus games as entertainment.
Well, I think that was our last genre. So you
No,
just
we
want to
still
get
have
into it?
one more.
We have one more, but we've been talking about it this
We
entire
have
time.
talked
Yeah.
about it. It's the action adventure genre, and I feel like we've covered a lot of it already, but there's definitely parts that we haven't touched on. Because the action slash adventure genre is so massive. Um, it's where games like Fallout and Skyrim really
As they
kind of
stand right
fall.
now,
Yeah, it's
fall
where they
into
kind
it.
of fall. Even though, they're both kind of RPGs, Fallout is kind of a shooter. They definitely fall into the action adventure category, just like Dark Souls or uh, Bloodborne. Bloodborne, by the way, is my favorite game of all time, hands down. And I will fight you on that one if you say it's bad.
Well, I see. I haven't played it, so
Yeah.
can't say.
Like I know the Souls game. Like I haven't played that much of a Souls game, but I know that they're good. I'm not gonna say anything bad about them because my opinion won't be very well informed.
And that's perfectly a valid point. Like, that's a valid stance to take.
Yeah, I haven't played. I haven't played any of the Soulsborne games. The closest the closest game the closest I've come to a Soulsborne game is the Fallen Order.
Same,
Yeah,
same.
and so like that's one of the reasons why I wanted to pick up Fallen Order is because it was that action adventure that has the Souls-like feel to it, and it was terrible in that in that respect because one of the important things about the Soulsborne genre is just how you need good response times and specific, consistent um, interactions with your character and their moveset. And Fallen Order did not have that. There was input lag, which was horrible. There was horrible input lag, and I'm not talking about startup frames and all that stuff. There was input lag. Like you'd hit a button and then it would take a couple frames for your character to start the startup animation, which is bad. Which is bad for that kind of genre of game. Um, there were a few other problems as well with just hitbox detection, stuff like that. When you look at the especially Bloodborne, your hitboxes are almost pixel perfect. It's really quite scary how good the hitboxes are in Bloodborne. Some are a bit weird based on angles, but they're almost all just about perfect. Um, and that the action adventure genre really shines with the Soulsborne games, and that's kind of one of the reasons why we've seen more and more games that are action adventure go towards that route. One of the first games that came out after Dark Souls that kind of shared that formula was, what is it, Lords of the Fallen, I believe it was called. That game kind of had some of the same problems that Fallen Order had. A lot of people enjoyed it. I'm not going to knock that. It was definitely not as tight as Dark Souls was. And then you've had other games that have come out since then that have kind of followed that, which is what was it? The Surge,
Nio.
Nio 2, obviously. Um, Code Vein was a game that came out last year. It was literally just being called Anime Dark Souls. That's basically what it felt like. And then even recently, just a couple months ago, there was another game that came out by a little indie company called Mortal Shell. Very good. A little, it's definitely on the underproduced side, but the company that made it is so tiny. I'm willing to give them a pass on that. Um, you know, they aren't this multi-billion-dollar corporation like you've got making, you know, Call of Duty that can't even do a multiplayer, right? They created a good single-person adventure game, and it had that RPG element. It had some very unique aspects to it. Overall, it was enjoyable. But I mean, that's kind of where I feel the action adventure genre is going. Is towards that Soulsborne experience,
Well, I
the
mean,
one that offers you that challenge, but is fair about it.
I think you're right. I think a lot of games have started to go that way, because I mean the if you this is sort of getting into the games as art versus games as entertainment thing, but like the I think a lot of the action adventures like it fall into either one of two categories. The story is getting better, like as the games evolve, as the
Mm-hmm.
genre evolves, or the gameplay and challenge is getting harder. Like it's going one of two ways.
Yeah, and that's absolutely correct. I mean, a lot of games, I feel like in the about a decade ago, it was there was no challenge anymore. It was basically a power fantasy. You know, you look at
The Fable
the
games.
Fable games, looking at even the God of War games. I mean, they were basically beat things to death as fast as possible.
Hack and
Um,
slash.
yeah, kind of hack and slash genre where you don't you're not really gonna die all that often. You're usually gonna do it to just your own stupidity, like jumping off a cliff or getting overwhelmed because you weren't paying attention. Where you then had Dark Souls come out, which was very much it was a skill challenge. It was we're barely even going to teach you how to play this game, and there are going to be things that are going to feel unfair, but they are fair. Um,
All you have
and
to do.
it's going to come down to, you need to look for the signs that we give you. If you're going to rush through this game, you're not going to have a good time. You need to slow down. You need to think about what you're doing. You need to think about the world around you, and you need to watch your enemies. Don't just go rushing in. You're not invincible. You've got to think about what you're doing. Do you really want to attack there? Are you sure? Maybe you should block. Maybe you should try to parry. And it created basically its own genre out of it, which is kind of phenomenal.
I'd agree. I mean, I haven't, like I said, I haven't played the Soulsborne games. However, I have played a couple games that uh,
Or
sort of
deviants.
that give you sort of the exact same uh, experience, if you
Hmm.
will. I'd argue almost like a Red Dead Redemption. I mean, granted, it's two completely different games, but like Red Dead Redemption, there's a different, there's a definitely you have to have a certain skill level in order to make it through the game. You have to be patient. Granted, the difference is, guns versus sort of,
Swords,
yeah, sword and shield.
And axes and clubs and lances and halberds and crossbows and
medieval
bows and
weapons.
yeah.
But I mean, the when I first picked up Red Dead Redemption, I thought it was a difficult game because you could easily just get overwhelmed, and you did have to think about what you're doing.
Yeah, to strategize a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that, again, going back to Dark Souls, whenever I first played Dark Souls, it's 2014. uh I rented Dark Souls from Family Video, and I took it home and I booted it up, and I died repeatedly to the first boss so many times. It's basically the first enemy you have to fight, and it's a boss. And the only thing you have is a broken sword. And I'm trying to fight this thing. I'm just like, how is this supposed to be fun? I'm not enjoying myself. This is stupid. And then I noticed that after I died about 4 or 5 times, I noticed that there in the corner of the room there was a door that you could leave through, and you didn't have to fight them. And I was just like, oh, okay, well, that would have been nice to know before. But I wasn't really paying attention to the environment. I was just looking at the boss, because at that point I had been trained by games that, oh, it's a boss. You fight the boss and kill the boss, and then you can continue. I wasn't thinking that there was a way to leave. So you leave, and then you get real equipment, and then you go back and fight him, and he's a lot easier. He's still difficult the first time you're playing, because you're not, you've got a new game, new controls, new mindset that you have to get into. So it's still kind of difficult. But after I got that real equipment, you go to exit to fight the boss, and you're able to drop down on top of him and take about half his health in one hit. And I was like, okay, well, it's kind of cool, I guess. But it was, it at that point, my view of the game had already been a bit sullied. And as I went through the game more, I just kept on finding things that I considered unfair, because how am I supposed to know this, or how am I supposed to know that? And it wasn't then until 2000 and I want to say late 2016 when I picked up Dark Souls again. And I started actually paying attention to the environment and the world around me. And I started thinking about combat instead of just trying to rush through it. And I started taking things slowly. I actually started really enjoying the game. Um, and it was because I realized that it wasn't about the destination, it was about the journey to the destination. And when you decide to finally slow down and stop trying to rush through everything. And I feel like this is a great analogy for life as well. When you slow down and you stop trying to rush through everything, you realize that there's so much to enjoy, and that there's a bit of a challenge, but it's not as challenging as it might seem if you're paying attention and you're taking the steps necessary to safeguard yourself and to observe and to learn from the mistake of others.
Well,
And it was at that point that I realized that Dark Souls really was a masterpiece. And Bloodborne came out. I played Bloodborne after that and had the same problem, because it kind of went in the opposite direction of Dark Souls. Instead of being super defensive, you wanted to be super aggressive. Um, and had to go through that again, of having to relearn how to play the game based upon you know those same kind of ideas.
yeah, no, I remember, I remember, uh, you, I remember when you started getting back into Dark Souls, you came into work and you like for
You had nothing but praise for it.
all you would do on the line is just sit there and talk about how good Dark Souls is, and it's just one of those things. It's like, I just remember there was a solid like 2 weeks where if anything about video games got brought up, Jordan was bringing up Dark Souls. But no, I mean, I'm with you on that. Like the games I enjoy playing now are games where you get punished if you do something wrong. You have to learn how to, like, there's a learning curve, and there is an honest to god challenge,
Hmm.
which is why one of my favorite games, when I found out about a new game mode, uh,
Hot take time.
uh, All right, yeah, fuck it. So one of my this is a certified hot take. One of the games that I enjoy playing most, and I think gets an absolutely terrible, 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 terrible reputation from the wider games community, because at this point it's just become a meme to dunk on it, is Fallout 4. Uh, I do not accept any slander when it comes to Fallout 4. I think it is one of the in this is where I have to be careful in order to not start a war. I think it is one of the better games that I have played in the last couple years, especially. There's a big bias element to it. I absolutely love the Fallout games, but I enjoy Fallout 4 way, way, way more than Fallout 3 or New Vegas, because
Uh, I can't.
uh,
I can't agree with you on that one. New Vegas is the best.
well, this is my hot take, Corey. Get your own hot take. The story is definitely weaker. However, the gameplay loop, like the core gameplay loop. There's a fantastic video I saw on YouTube that explains it better than I can. But the core gameplay loop of Fallout 4, I think they refined way better than Skyrim or the first two Bethesda Fallout games, or not the first two Bethesda Fallout games. Fallout 3 and New Vegas. New Vegas wasn't a Bethesda game, but the core gameplay loop, I don't know what it is. It strikes something in me. I've got probably north of 1,000 hours in Fallout 4, which is probably 4 times as much as I have in either Fallout 3 or New Vegas. That's
There's
my
nothing
spicy
wrong with
hot
that.
take. And I think if more people played the survival mode specifically, that they would they would come to understand what I mean.
You
Because
know
I
what
think
you.
I think I think unfortunately Fallout 4, when it was released, I think it was update patch like
I think you said it was like 1.3.
1.3 or 1.4, somewhere around there. So a couple months after the game had gotten released, they they introduced the survival mode, and I think that is how Fallout games are supposed to be played. And I think if more people played Fallout 4 survival mode, I think they would enjoy it more than Fallout 3 or Fallout 4
You know
or
what you basically did.
Vegas.
You know what you basically did with Fallout 4 though. You basically turned it into a Souls game.
Yeah, it becomes
Mhm.
more of a strategy game.
And I think that's a testament to just how strong the Soulsborne like genre is the fact that I booted up Fallout 4 yesterday to play it on the survival mode, and yeah, no, it is definitely a much better game when you play it on survival than it is if you play it on base, because you die quickly and your enemies die very very quickly, and if you make a mistake, you get punished, and because the only save points are at beds, you have that specific system of you need to move between beds essentially to be able to be safe, and if you die before that, you restart.
Never
Yeah.
Like you
before.
restart from the last save, which was at the last bed,
So literally
and so
before we
it's
started
the souls
recording,
but in Fallout.
I had a bit of bad luck with I had a bit of bad luck in Fallout 4 and legitimately lost about 45 to 50 minutes of progress because I just
You found
couldn't find.
Fallout's flying giant mechanic.
Yeah, I found the Skyrim, the Fallout equivalent of the Skyrim giant glitch, in that if you get pushed into a car, Sometimes it just sends you flying, and because of that glitch, I lost about 45 minutes of progress, which is just super fun.
Fallout 4, truly a great game, right, Brad?
It is. I shouldn't have been by that car. It's my fault. But yeah, no,
Hopefully.
it truly is. It's my favorite Fallout game.
And you know what? You're allowed to have that opinion, and I will respect it.
I said it was a
Um,
hot take, so
Yeah.
you're allowed to have that opinion, and I respect it. I'm glad you enjoy it. I definitely did not enjoy the base version of that game. I definitely have enjoyed survival a bit more. I don't think it's great, but I kind of have that feeling about every Bethesda game, so that's not exactly surprising for me.
For me, Fallout, I just can never get into Fallout 4. Like I said, like I got to like level 14 and then I just never picked it up again. Like New Vegas I played the hell out of, 3 I played the hell out of. But it just really kind of seemed like ever since Skyrim, main Bethesda games out of the 2 main series have just been kind of on a downhill slope, especially with Fallout 76, the way it was.
Whew.
Like,
Oh, 76.
like I said, I think the best thing about 76 is the steel book that I got it in, and that is it. I think
That's the
after,
only real value,
yeah, the
is the steel.
yeah, the what I think I only like played 2 weeks after release and never really went back. Like like people broken the game within 2 months, and now they tried to bring it back like 2 years later with failure. Like they finally added in actual like human NPCs, and
Yeah, and I touched a bit on this earlier, but it's really kind of come down to this corporate greed. Um, that's why 76 failed, is because of corporate greed. They did not actually care about making a good game to sell to their customers. They wanted a way to just make quick, easy money, and have consistently failed to deliver anything worth its value,
yeah,
um, to their consumers.
well, I absolutely agree, and I haven't put a single minute into 76, despite the fact that uh, I Fallout has been and still is and will remain to be probably one of my favorite series to play.
I mean, lore wise, Fallout is Bethesda in general just can make amazing lore for worlds. They can just make being in that world, regardless of how good the game actually is, it can make it incredibly interesting. I mean, uh, Corey and I and a few others, Brad wasn't there at the time. We sat down, we did a tabletop RPG session years ago. And the first tabletop RPG that we played together was a homebrewed system based in the Fallout world. And we had a whole lot of fun. It was definitely fun, playing that kind of system with that kind of, background and lore. Um, and I feel like Bethesda really lends itself well to creating good lore, but I feel like their games are just kind of bad.
I will agree. Well, see, I think Bethesda games get a bad rap because they are part of the dying RPG. They market their games as role playing games, but I'd argue that Fallout 3 and New Vegas had better RPG elements, but weren't actually RPGs. They were open world action adventures. And I think Fallout 4 became more of an action adventure than an RPG. But I mean, like, if you look online, the thing that one of the reasons that pisses like one of the things that pisses me off about people who talk bad about Fallout 4, and this is just a personal thing. It's something that just irks me. Um, is like one of the things is like, oh well, Fallout 4 isn't a good game because it's not like New Vegas or like Fallout 3. It doesn't have the RPG elements to to play with or whatever. The I just think like that there's no defending Fallout 4 story. It has a weak story.
I
Too
think
many
I think
plot holes. But I'd say they finally found with Skyrim and then perfected in Fallout 4 what is the core of a Bethesda game. And I think what the core of Fallout games should be in the future, which is the gameplay mechanic, which is essentially just explore, combat, and loot.
I think
Because it puts you that main gameplay loop puts you in the absolutely wonderful, like wonderful spots that they've created for like the dungeons and setting that they've put you in. Like downtown Boston, I was telling Jordan this the other day, is my absolute favorite gaming city of all time. Like city within a video game of all time. There's just so much to explore, so much to do. Um, it legitimately like in survival, it's scary, which I think it should be and would be if you were ever actually in a scenario like that. It's just the thing that Bethesda does so well is create a game world and then puts you in it by giving you quests and things to do to get you to go explore that stuff. There is not a single building in Fallout 4 that doesn't have its own little story for you to discover through terminals, through just the things that they place around the dungeon or interior cell. So I mean, I think Fallout 4 gets a bad rap because people expect it to be like New Vegas or an RPG because that's how it's marketed as. It's not an RPG. And I think if more people recognize that it's not an RPG, that they would actually see it's one of the better games of all time. But that's a hot take, and it's
I
meant to be. It's meant to be very spicy and start arguments.
Start a conversation.
So back to the whole RPG thing, right? I think one of the main issues that people had with Fallout 4 is that they didn't have any more choices to what to say like they did back in Fallout 3 in New Vegas, which is the main character in Fallout 4 was voice acted, and I'm pretty sure they wouldn't have that many detractors if they just stuck with the silent protagonist.
No, and
Uh,
I would
I,
have enjoyed that system more, honestly, if it wasn't a voice protagonist. But the thing that they, the big thing when they point to the change in systems is there aren't any more like there aren't like speech options, so you can't use your intelligence skill to to uh, create a different ending for this particular
yeah,
quest. But I mean,
I was gonna say, like, there's a couple different charisma options where you can get like discounts on things, or you can get a little bit more information. But there's really not speech challenges like there was back in like, well, I'll use New Vegas because I played it the most. Like, you could straight up change the result of some quests or what your rewards were based on many different attributes.
You can just base it like once you start the quest and you start talking to the person that gave you the quest. If you have enough, like if you have a high enough speech or a high enough intelligence, you can finish that quest just by talking to them.
well, that's the thing though that I think that's one of these things that people like, oh, this is like an RPG. It's an RPG element. But the thing that I didn't like about Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas is there were really only like four, and I think people, because they've played both and you know have so much love for New Vegas and 3, they don't realize that there are really only like four uh four skills that you need to get any of those like results. There was intelligence, which was just a special that you couldn't change. There was speech.
Mhm.
There was like repair. Um, like science and like medicine were really like the only four skills
Those
that
were
you
the
need.
four main ones.
Those were the
There
four
were
main
definitely
ones.
some options that you could that they were very rare. There's only like maybe one or two, but there were some other ones like you could like if you had high enough like guns proficiency, you could get more options with some people because you could speak to them about guns on something or about explosives. Um, there were additional speech options there, I think, for just about every single category. But the main ones that you use, you're correct. Speech, medicine, like the intelligence based stat, and then in science. Those are the main ones. But you definitely had options, like in Good Springs. Um, if you talk to the prospector, if you had high enough explosive knowledge, you could get explosives. But you only could do that if your explosives was high enough.
Yeah, it had to be 25, and the
And at that point in the game, that's probably not realistic unless you're playing a build that's going to be using explosives.
and
But I
then you
mean, like,
have the barter, the general store guy. You had to have like a 25 barter, so he could supply the Good Springs citizens with armor and guns.
Yeah.
there are, yes, you're right. There are more RPG elements in those, but those really only affected like speech. There weren't that many. There weren't that many. There were a couple times where you could like repair something in order to not have to do a fetch quest. But I think people, because they play Fallout 4 and probably haven't played New Vegas in a while, realize like that have an overinflated opinion on how many like, or not opinion, have an overinflated what am I trying to say? They don't realize that there aren't that many options in either of those games. There are way more than in Fallout 4, but Fallout 4, uh, it you a charisma build works because there are speech checks that you can pass to prevent a character from dying or to avoid a fight. And I think people just see, that you don't have to have, four different maxed out skills in order to complete a quest without any fatalities or to get a different ending. They just look, you know, charisma is the only skill you need and are disappointed. But I mean, I can point to one of the quests in Fallout 4, the USS Constitution. You can avoid, I think, 3 fetch quests if you have an Intelligence 9 character.
Uh
But
huh.
people go, there are no RPG elements in Fallout 4. Far Harbor, there are tons and tons, and granted it's DLC, but there are tons and tons of options for you to skip or get different results based on, perks you have or your intelligence or your charisma, or if even you brought like the right companion with you.
I mean, you have a lot of that in like every Fallout game.
But I mean,
Yeah.
I think people go. I think people. I don't know. Those the other thing too. It's like you in New Vegas and Fallout 3. Yes, you could get like different results, but everything was more or less the same. You would get a little bit more money, or you would get some, you would get some sticks
I
of
mean,
dynamite.
you can straight up not fight the final boss in Fallout New Vegas if you have a high enough speech. Like if you have speech 100, and I believe you're playing on the side of NCR. I know this from experience. You can straight up just not fight League Atlantis, I believe.
That's
I
but
think that's his name. But like you can straight up just say like basically stand down. You've lost this fight, and he gives up. Like he's just like you're right. We have lost. It's best to retreat now. Thank you for giving us the option to not have to die here.
yeah,
Like and like straight up not having to fight the final boss is pretty nice.
Yeah.
Although you can technically do that in Fallout 4 too. The fight, like
Mhm.
at the end of the story, like let's say you side with
But I mean, I was citing that as a direct counterpoint to the fact that you said that there's no real rewards for doing it in New Vegas. Like there are. Like you can straight up avoid entire quest lines if you have high enough stats. You can avoid the entire final boss fight. So it's more than just getting a little bit extra rewards. Like there's straight up things that you just can't do otherwise.
Yeah, you're right.
You can not get trapped by Benny. Whenever you finally meet him at the casino. Like if you have high, I don't remember what stat it is, but if you have a high enough stat, you can straight up convince him here and like then and there to tell you where he sent the platinum chip, instead of having to go get trapped by him, almost killed, have to fight the people, then turn half the casino against you.
You're right. But I think like the same thing is you're right. There are points when if you have the right skill, you can alter gameplay. The same is true though in Fallout 4. Like even in the main like the final act of Fallout 4, like if you choose to play, you can choose to leave 3 of the factions alive. You don't have to destroy, like for example, if you choose a Minuteman playthrough, you don't have to destroy the Brotherhood of Steel. If you do things in a certain order, you don't have to destroy the Brotherhood of Steel and
Mm-hmm.
the Institute. And then when you go into the Institute, there are things that you can do to make the fight easier. Like, um, um, what's the character's name?
Well, I was gonna say
There's a
again,
character.
the criticism isn't that you can't do that kind of stuff in Fallout 4. The criticism is that there's so few avenues to do that. Like it's pretty prevalent in New Vegas, and some of it is just you get a little bit of extra reward, but it is an extra reward based on those skills and those stats. Where in Fallout 4, you really only use one or two stats, and that's about it. And they're not all that common, and they're mostly concentrated around like main quest lines and just main characters instead of being most of the NPCs.
I remember
Well, no,
one. I
there are side quests and quite a bit of them that you can get around. Like you can change the ending based if like you have a high enough speech skill. One of them being the USS Constitution quest
Hmm.
line is full of those. Although
That's
I
charisma, not speech.
well
There is no speech.
it's charisma, um, which is essentially just speech. It's like the
Yeah.
speech and barter skill in one. Um, the and you can not have to kill the humans if you side with the robots if you have a high enough speech skill. You can avoid doing like 2 or 3 fetch quests. I think it's 2 if you have a high enough intelligence score. There are there are plenty of other side quests. Like one, spoiler alert, the side quest where you have to you have to find and kill Paladin Dance. You can avoid if you have a high enough speech skill. You don't have to kill Paladin Dance,
I remember
and you
one
don't have to become
comparison.
hostile with the Brotherhood of Steel if you have a high enough speech skill.
I remember one comparison to Fallout 4 that I personally thought about, which is the reason why people don't really care for Fallout 4 like they do with Fallout New Vegas and 3 is Fallout 4 quests like the majority of the quests is basically just a loot and shoot.
Well, yeah, but that's the same. It's the same. It's the exact same. Uh,
As I say, this
Literally
is kind of staple of the genre.
all of the yeah the all of the Fallout games have essentially had, except 1 and 2, have had essentially the same gameplay like loop mechanic, which is explore, combat, and like benefit like loot. It's just Fallout 4 focused more on that gameplay loop, and I think perfected that gameplay loop when it comes to like things to explore, areas to explore, loot that you can get, and not to mention combat was better. So I mean, I think all Fallout games have had the exact same gameplay loop. It's just people, you know, like the Todd Howard memes and shit like that. So they hate on Fallout 4. I think unjustly because it perfected that gameplay loop.
Um,
It just
See,
removed
so,
some of the
so here's
RPG
my problem.
elements.
Here's my problem. So, my problem with that statement is, um, one of the reasons why it was so disappointing for me is it had been, how long had it been since New Vegas came out? 8 years, 9 years?
Five
No,
years.
yeah, 5 or 6 years.
Was it only five
New
or
Vegas,
six?
or well, Fallout 3 came out. I think it was 2007. New Vegas
Yeah,
came out in 2010, and Fallout 4 came out in 2015.
Okay, it had been 5 years, and I was really, and it was on a new console, and I was expecting the game to have, how do I put it, drastically improve combat, to actually make combat fun. Um, and it didn't. Simply put, for me, combat was no better, really no better than Vegas. And as a result, it's just like, okay, well, the combat's not better, the storyline's worse, and side quests just aren't as interesting. They're not bad, but they're just not as interesting as some of the stuff that you could find in New Vegas. There were some interesting Fallout 4 quests. Don't get me wrong. There were definitely some interesting ones, but they were a lot farther between than in New Vegas, where everything was kind of a bit, bit interesting, with some exceptions. Um, so as a result, it was just like, I don't feel like the game is nearly as interesting as New Vegas was. The premise is not nearly as fun. I mean, come on, you're the mailman. It's
I'm the
revenge of the
fucking
mailman.
mailman.
It's revenge of the mailman. I mean, what could be better? Like that's just such an outlandish idea that just works so well. It was just disappointing for me. Like I still like New Vegas better. I'm not going to sit here and say that Fallout 4 is the worst game of all time. There are definitely games that deserve that title much, much more than that. Not going to get into names.
76.
76. Uh,
Yeah, but no, I mean, I agree with you. Like combat didn't improve as much as it probably should have, but I think there is a marked difference in combat when it comes to Fallout 4 to New Vegas, because New Vegas, it is impossible to shoot, like it is impossible to play as like a first person or third person shooter when it
I
comes to
heavily
combat.
disagree. Whenever I played through New Vegas most recently, I did not touch VATS once, and I was playing on the hardest
It's
difficulty.
not impossible. It's not
It was
impossible.
not even. It wasn't hard. It was fine. It was just like playing, for me. It was just like playing any other PS3 genre game. It wasn't as good. The graphics definitely weren't as good. That's for certain. But it was basically the same. I mean, you hit where you shoot most of the time.
Were you playing with true iron
Unless
sights on?
unless you have
Yes.
unless you have a like the problem that I have with New Vegas is, like, for example, if you have a low skill in something, whether it's energy weapons or small guns, big guns, whatever, it there are if you when you first pick up the gun and you aim down the sights, if you have a if you have a low skill and a gun with low accuracy, you will not hit what you point and shoot at. There are the thing.
Yeah, you're right, and that's an intended mechanic. I mean, you can not like that mechanic, that's fine, but that's an intended mechanic. So if you want to be able to use that, you need higher skill. That's that's intentional. So if you want to be able to pick up and use a sniper rifle, you have to put, you have to put points in big guns. And so like that's kind of one of the reasons why so many people like New Vegas more, is because you have to cater your skills to your play style, or you change your play style to match your skills. You can't just pick up anything and be phenomenal with it.
Well, the same is true in Fallout 4, though, because I mean, literally, the only difference is that you can pick up a gun and hit something, but there are tons and tons and tons of skills that make it actually viable for killing for killing enemies in Fallout 4, and those are just the perks, which replace the skill system.
You
I mean,
guys want to
But
know?
that's the thing, is New Vegas also had perks, which made things even better. I mean, one of my favorite perks was the Weird Wasteland, if you couldn't tell.
Wild Wasteland.
Yeah, Wild
that one
Wasteland.
is that is something I do miss. I do
You
miss.
guys want to know why I think New Vegas is better than Fallout 4? New
Well,
Vegas had.
I didn't finish. Hold on, real quick.
Hold on, hold on. No. This is quick. This is quick. This is quick. New Vegas had the M1 Garand, and Fallout 4 didn't.
I mean, okay, you sold me.
That's why
Come on, Brad, you know that's true.
mods exist. You can,
Well, I mean,
but no, like the one thing.
if we're talking about modded games, then I think New Vegas easily takes it.
Yeah, no, I'm joking. It doesn't have the M1 Grand, which is definitely a knock on Fallout 4. But the one thing, the when it comes to combat, the one thing I didn't the animations are much better. And
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
I would hope.
I'm not saying the animations are better, not only like the shooting animations and stuff like that, but the because they improve
Animations for everything.
for
The graphics are so much better. Yes.
everything, which
Mhm.
and which truly like makes Fallout 4's combat, I think, better, because you like for example in Fallout 3 in New Vegas, if you ever came across a feral ghoul, it would just run and attack you.
Mhm.
And it would be very easy. It runs in a straight line, just like almost every other enemy that didn't use guns would just run in a straight line at you. Made combat very simple and boring. There's a massive difference in Fallout 4 between New Vegas and
Yes.
that like
The AI got better,
the
and I would
AI
hope it
got
would after
better.
5 years.
Yeah, the AI got
Especially considering that New Vegas was not produced by Bethesda. It was produced by Obsidian, which was a smaller studio, and it did not have nearly the budget that Fallout 3 had.
Or the time.
well. No, I know all that. But
Yeah, and it in New Vegas's budget is fractions of what Fallout 4's budget was.
And they didn't
And
get the
Fallout
bonus
4
either.
and they didn't get the bonus, which is a shame. But on top of that, you also had 5 years. You had 5 years difference between the two games, and on top of that, you had massive strides across in technology, including the fact that it's on an entirely different generation of console that really amped up the differences between the two generations. Um, I expected a lot more. Like I said, I booted up Fallout 4. Um, for the first time in years yesterday to play survival mode. And you're right, it is much better on survival mode than it is as the base game. But one of the things that I was still disappointed with was, yes, it looks better than New Vegas. That is without a doubt. The animations are better. It still does not look good.
No, I'm not saying it looks good when I
And
say like the
that was
animations
also
are
a
different.
disappointment that I had whenever the game came out.
Yeah,
Is it
no,
was like,
all
it's fine,
the
but it's not good.
all of the like literally every Bethesda game that's come out is like 2 or 3 years behind in graphics when it comes to uh, other games and stuff like that. But when I say animations, I'm not saying like it just looks better. I'm saying combat performs wildly different in Fallout 4 than it does in New Vegas.
Yes,
Enemies
and it
move
should.
different, which means you have to approach each fight differently. You have to approach different enemies differently. There are one of the things that I enjoy about Fallout 4 and you actually learn if you pick a specific specific perk. That's awareness is the enemies have wildly different weak points,
Hmm.
and it makes you approach literally every different enemy type. It makes you approach enemies differently, every single enemy, not just you know you approach in New Vegas enemies with guns one way and then everything else the other, because all of the animals and feral ghouls act the exact same way. It's it
That's not entirely true. There were definitely some that acted a bit different, and they did had different weak points. For example, the rad scorpion, you did not shoot that thing in the head. You shot that thing in the tail
yeah.
because the tail was the weak point. That's was a New Vegas thing.
The
There were a lot of
kata
other enemies
the
that had different weak
Catazors, you
points.
shot them in the wings.
Yes, there were a lot of enemies that had many different weak points. So that did not start with Fallout 4. That's been something that's been in there, and I don't think New Vegas started that either.
But that the you're right, but there's I we've been it's I in I
I'm glad you enjoy the game. I'm
Yeah.
glad that you enjoyed the game. I still think that the game is bad from an objective point of view. Um, I don't, and again, a game can be bad and it can also be fun or enjoyable. I believe I told you this the other day, Brad. I downloaded a game the other day. It was free on Steam. Let me see if I can find it here. I think I might have deleted it because I beat it, but it was literally just a satire of open world games, and that's all it is. And yeah, here it is. It's called Open World Game, the Open World Game, and it's an RPG, and it is one of the stupidest games I've played. It's not good, but it was entertaining, and it was kind of fun. It's just a satire commentary on open world games, and I beat it in I beat it in under an hour, and it was hilarious. It's not a good game. It's not. It really is not in any objective way a good game, but it is. It's funny. It is very pertinent to today's gaming environment, and you know what? I would recommend somebody to play it. I mean, it's free anyway. And so this goes back into the games versus art versus games as entertainment. Um, the game was entertaining. It's not art. Like it is art in the strictest sense, but it is not an art game. Um, it was entertaining because it was satire, and that was it. Uh, if you actually tried to sell this to somebody, you'd get chewed out. And that's one of the things. Like Fallout 4, it's perfectly fine to enjoy it. Games primarily are for entertainment, but where a lot of the best games lie is whenever they kind of cross that threshold into being art, being real vectors for storytelling, and that goes beyond just enjoying it or them being fun. There are definitely games that are not fun, but you get value out of playing. And I think one of the greatest examples of that would be two games that come to mind. The first one is The Vanishing of Ethan Carter. I don't know if anybody's played that.
I have
Um,
Nope.
have you haven't played that, Corey?
No.
Okay. And then the other one would be What Remains of Edith Finch. Has anybody
Haven't.
played that one?
Haven't
Ah, I
played it.
think it was free.
It was I have it, like I have it, I just haven't played it.
Yeah, you need to give it a try. What Remains of Edith Finch, I would not say is a quote unquote fun game to play, um, but it is definitely art. It really leaves you at the end with kind of a very overwhelming sense of sadness, and you don't regret playing the game. Like I said, it's not a fun game to play, but it is definitely a game that is worth playing. Have you had any experiences like that where like you didn't maybe necessarily have fun, but you definitely felt like you had like you got value out of playing it, not even out of an entertainment perspective?
The first Red
Uh,
Dead Redemption.
my like
Okay.
170 hours in Odyssey kind of says that. I haven't had that much fun playing sometime like through those 170 hours, but I definitely got my value.
Well, here's the question. It's not about value. It's not about, oh, did you get enough time out of it? It's about like what did you get out of the game that can't be measured in value or time? Did you get a
Uh,
message?
Out
let
of the
me,
first Red Dead Redemption,
Or
yes, I didn't enjoy
yeah.
playing it that much. Like the uh, just to sum up and move us into the other thing. Like my whole thing with Fallout 4 is I understand why people don't like it, but I think it is one of those games that people it almost suffers from being called Fallout 4. If it was literally called anything else, I think people would have it up there with New Vegas, but people look at Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas and are disappointed by Fallout 4 and wrongly because they are different games. That to sum it up. But anyway, into the games as art uh whole discussion. Yeah, no, the first Red Dead Redemption was not that fun to play in
okay.
my opinion. It's one of my favorite games of all time, though, based solely on the story. And I think it's very hard. This is another hot take. I think there are very few games I consider art more than entertainment.
Hmm.
The Red Dead Redemption games being
Among them.
among them. Like the like combat's not that fun. It's not as fun as it could be, but the story is so incredible. Like the story is so incredible that like in Red Dead Redemption 2, for example, one of the big knocks on it was uh, it's not very entertaining because you spend so much time just riding around and having to take care of yourself.
Hmm.
But it works in Red Dead Redemption 2
Yep.
because the story is so damn good.
I would say the best story that I've experienced in these last couple years, like last 3 years, would have been Ghost of Tsushima and Red
Mm.
Dead Redemption 2.
Ghost of Tsushima definitely has that quality of it, which is it was a good game and it had a good story,
Yeah, like
which it's not exactly all that common anymore.
yeah, like that the last like battle, like the last like duel that you have
Mm-hmm.
hurts because
It does. You don't want to do it, but you know you have to.
yeah, like you don't want to do it because you're just like he was basically my father figure after your father has died, right?
Hmm.
Like he wanted to adopt you as his son to be the next leader of Shimura, and it definitely hurt when you had to actually battle him.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was definitely hard. And then that choice at the end after you beat him,
Yeah,
that choice of do you do you honor his wish and give him the honorable death that he craves, or do you let him live and walk away and you accept that your role now as the ghost?
yeah.
And it's definitely a very difficult moment.
Oh yeah, I was on that screen for like 10 minutes trying to figure out which one I wanted to
Yeah,
do.
I felt the exact same way. What I found out eventually, very quickly though, was on that screen you can save the game,
Yeah,
and then you can boot up and do the other one, and you can save them both as independent files, so you can have both endings ready to go because they do change. Like what happens afterwards does change based on the ending that you pick.
mm-hmm.
That's I just think like there are only a few games like that I consider art, and a lot of them
Brad,
are.
do you have a PS4, right?
Yes.
You wanna borrow Ghost of Tsushima?
Yeah, I'd be down.
Okay.
I'd be down to play
I
it. For
Brad,
like,
you're going to be borrowing so many games from
I know
us.
I've got some catching up to do when it comes to gaming, but
Because here's the thing: before today, I did not realize you had a PS4.
really,
I thought
I
I
did
thought
not.
he
I
had
had it for like
I
2 years.
knew
I knew you
I
had an Xbox and I knew you had a PC. I did not know that you had a PS4
I
or a Switch.
knew I knew he had a I knew he had an Xbox. I knew he had a PC. I knew he had a Switch. I knew he had a PS4 in the past, but I thought he sold it.
No, I gave it to my sister, um, and then got it back. But like I hadn't played the only I played. I got Battlefield 2, the most recent Battlefield 2 for PS4. I got like a um uh one of the like I think I got like one of the FIFA games for it. Like I barely played it. I had 2 games for it, and I got
Hmm.
Outer Worlds for it, but that was it.
Yeah, I've got a pretty big library of games you should try out. God of War, it's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
That I've played uh the first 3 God of War games. I haven't played the most recent one.
The
Horizon
most
Zero.
recent one is by far the best.
Yeah,
Horizon Zero Dawn, you need to try out.
I have the disc
Um,
of that as well.
yeah, I was gonna say, I can definitely get you some of them.
But yeah, no, I mean like they're like a game like God of War, like the most recent God of War, I'd consider more art than entertainment. It's very entertaining, but I consider that like art. And then there are a couple of games that I feel are more a gray area than anything else. Like the
Time for another hot take.
okay,
I got another hot take for you guys. Dark Souls and Bloodborne are more art than they are for entertainment.
Yeah, I agree.
And yeah, like I said, it's a hot take. And just I want you to hear my argument and then tell me what you think about the argument. So the argument is whenever you're looking at something as a piece of art, you're trying to understand what its value is. What is its value? If it's not meant specifically for entertainment, and it can be entertaining, but if it's not meant specifically for entertainment, where does its value lie? In speaking to the effect of Dark Souls has spawned what is essentially a genre and a set of mechanics that is being randomly thrown into games that, as Brad mentioned earlier, those kind of mechanics, limited save points, limited resources, having to sit and watch and evaluate situations instead of just rushing through the game blindly. Those kind of things, they've been around for some time, but they massively fell out of favor. Dark Souls brought those back in such a powerful way. There are games being created specifically just to emulate that feeling and that idea. And if there was ever an argument as to what makes something a piece of art, I feel like creating such a broad range of of effect as to cause major studios to implement your designs because of how powerful and revolutionary and how much they pull people in and make them enjoy it. Uh, that that is truly powerful and amazing. I feel like that is where something kind of crosses that threshold into being art. Um,
I guess it all depends on your definition. Um, like the games that I consider more art, like when someone says like, okay, this is an artistic game, I think more like story and using a video game as
medium.
a vehicle to tell those stories. Like Dark Souls to me is more a gray area game in that having never played or tried to learn anything about like the Soulsborne series yet, I understand like a lot of people enjoy like the story itself, but
So,
when
fun fact: my wife probably knew more about the lore than I did at one point, and she had never played the game.
Can I have another hot take.
well,
Oh, okay. Hot take hour.
Games that focus more on the art aspect instead of the entertainment aspect can be one of the worst games ever made.
Oh yeah, absolutely, without a doubt.
it has to be done right. But no, I
Yeah.
mean like like it the thing with Dark Souls, and the reason I think it's more of a gray area game, is because enough people have enjoyed the entertainment aspect of the gameplay and mechanics and stuff like that that they get implemented into another game. Like I said, it all just depends on your definition of like I consider like if someone says artful game, I consider like I'm oh like the story, the vehicle of the game itself tells a good story, not that like okay the mechanics have been copied for
Mhm.
other games. That's why I consider it more of a gray area, because it's like the Soulsborne
So,
series are famous for the mechanics, and rightfully so.
mhm.
Um,
But see, that's one of the interesting things, though. The mechanics are part of the game. And that's one of the reasons why there are so many companies that try to make these Soulsborne games that just can't do it, is because the mechanics of the game are part of the story. For example, one of the reasons why you always revive at bonfires, that's explained. That's a lore thing. It's not just because, like, yes, it's because that's what the developers wanted, but there's a lore reason specifically as to why. There's a reason why whenever you start the game, you have this weird item on you called the dark sign. Like there's a lot of things they're just part of the base mechanics of the game that have like lore reasons, and there are a lot of and those are the reasons why a lot of games that try to copy it just don't have the same effect. Is because a lot of that lore gets lost, and a lot of those things move from being implemented aspects of the world to just being game mechanics.
that's fair. I mean, but yeah, see, you could you could argue that about a lot of games, like the
You could, yeah.
oh, here's a health item, here's lore wise why it heals you. I mean, it to me, I agree with you. Like they're obviously fantastic games. People enjoy playing them, and they're the mechanics are implemented well enough that other companies feel the need to steal them and put them in their own games.
Mhm. Here's one more reason why I think it's art, right? So one of the things about art is you get from it what you kind of what you're willing to kind of search for and understand, right? So whenever you go to an art gallery, you look at different pieces. And if you just look at the pictures, you get a certain understanding from them, and you can be like, oh yeah, that looks pretty, that looks cool. It's yeah, and and you get a certain amount of enjoyment and entertainment and understanding from them. But if you look at the plaques beside them that tell you about the piece of art, it can change entirely your view on that piece. And by having more knowledge, it gives you a different understanding. But you have the choice to ignore that plaque because nobody's going to force you to read it. It's there to tell you something, but only if you want to. And it can completely change how you view that piece of art. It can give it new depth, or it can show you that, oh, this is kind of stupid. This is actually dumber than what I thought it was. Dark Souls has that exact same thing with how it implements its lore. You get kind of a skin deep understanding of the lore by playing the game and seeing things. But there are on item descriptions and in places hidden away from where everywhere else. Some are in plain view. There is a lot more that you can choose to interact with or not. And your understanding of the story and how you feel about the story are going to vary wildly depending on whether or not you choose to interact with that extra information or not. There are, I would say most games do not have that. Their lore is handed to you on a silver platter, and you are force-fed it. There is one interpretation, and that's it. Nothing is left ambiguous, or nothing's even provided at all.
Yeah.
That's fair. Yeah, no, I agree with you. Like, it's definitely it's one of the more artful games out there. However, I just like my personal
You're right. There's a gray area.
art. I think it's more of a gray area game. I think one of the other games that falls into my gray area is like like the Witcher series,
Yeah.
Okay.
where it's like it tells all of them have a fantastic story. All of them are wildly
Uh, the
Witcher
first
1.
one, the first one's a bit. We won't go there today.
all right.
Witcher 2 and 3 are
Witcher,
great, though.
okay, well, like
2 and 3 are great. Yeah.
okay, let's look at just The Witcher 3 then.
Let's look at The Witcher 3. That's the big one. That's the one that is
Most
known
known.
and renowned as the most popular, most famous one.
It's also
For good reason.
it's also considered one of the best games of all time. And
I don't know if it's considered one of the best games of all time. However, I know most people consider it in the top 10 of the last generation.
Oh, yeah,
Well,
definitely.
And I think I might agree with that.
it's the second highest rated game, at least it was last time I looked on the Xbox Marketplace. It's the second highest rated game behind only Minecraft.
I'm going to look up real quick. Highest rated games of all time.
By the way,
So my first ones that are popping up are Grand Theft Auto 5, Legend of
No.
Zelda Ocarina of Time,
mhm.
Half-Life 2, Portal 2, Half-Life, GoldenEye 007, Super Mario Galaxy 2, The Last of Us, Soul Calibur, BioShock, Tekken, Grand Theft Auto 3, The Phantom Pain, Metroid Prime. Okay, that's an interesting one. Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2, The Orange Box. Okay, that's understandable.
What do you
Baldur's
Are you
Gate
just
2.
on Google?
This is just a Google search, yeah. Let's go on Metacritic.
I'm
Okay,
saying-
Metacritic.
I'm saying like legit like I'm just saying like on the Xbox Marketplace, like if you were to pull up the store on your Xbox One or Series X,
Mhm.
like the second highest rated game, like the one with the most 5-star reviews, like the best average audience.
Yes, but
score.
that's only on one platform.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm just saying like that using that metric, which is the only metric I ever looked at. It's up
So
there.
I'm on Metacritic now, looking at the top rated games of all time. It's not even in the top 50.
Really?
No.
I would say definitely it's one of the best games of the last generation. I don't know if it's one of the best games of all time, but definitely one of the best games of the last generation.
The highest rated game of all time, according to Metacritic, with a score of 99, is The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time for the N64.
I guess.
I mean, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I mean, their entire genres of game that would not exist if it was not for the success of
Oh
The Legend of Zelda:
yeah.
Ocarina of
Ocarina of Time was one of the first games in
And
many genres.
as a game, again, you have to understand and judge this by the
Context.
standards of 1998
hmm
is when the game came out. The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time is one of the cleanest, most beautiful looking games that came out at that point. And to this day, a lot of that holds up. There are not a whole lot of glitches in that game.
No, there's not.
There are less glitches in that game than what come out in most AAA games today.
Yeah, that's
Think about that. They can't patch anything. That game had to be perfect at when they shipped it. And you know what? It basically was.
Yeah, it was.
no. I mean, I agree. Okay, my point being with The Witcher 3,
It's a very good game. It's a very well received game as well.
Yeah.
yes, it strikes more of a gray area for me than like just straight up like art. It's got a
Okay, I found The Witcher 3 on this list.
okay.
For the PC, The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, with a score of 93, is ranked 111.
Okay.
Yeah, it's tied with Burnout 3, Super Smash Bros. Brawl, Company of Heroes, Gran Turismo, The Last of Us Part 2, which that's dog shit. Tom Clancy's Splinter Cell, Grand Theft Auto Chinatown Wars for the DS, Divinity Original Sin 2, Pac-Man Championship Edition. Again, these are based on scores. Hades, Half-Life Alyx,
I'm
Unreal Tournament,
I'm looking at all these
God
games,
of War 2.
like the first few games. I'm like, yeah, GTA 4, not really. Like, it was entertaining, but
The original Soul Calibur for the Dreamcast came out in 1999.
damn.
Yeah. But, The Witcher 3 is a phenomenal game.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I definitely feels like it should be higher on this list, but it's Metacritic, and they're very biased.
yeah.
If you couldn't tell by the fact that they put The Last of Us Part 2 next to
The Witcher
The
3.
Witcher 3.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not the most popular. It's not the second most popular game of all time, like I said, but it's the prime example that I can think of a absolutely fantastic gray area game, and that's where I'd put like Dark Souls. I'm not saying like the gameplay is better, one or the other. Just depends on your like preference. Um, I mean, Witcher 3 doesn't have a combat system or mechanic system that's been stolen and put in other games. I'm just saying, like, when you look at the balance of entertainment, of gameplay, and the solid story and lore, and the game itself being a vehicle for a fantastic story, it's
Yeah,
a gray area game.
I want to clarify something though. When we're talking about games as art versus games as entertainment, something can be both. For example, you
That's
can
what I
have
mean
a
by gray
game.
area.
Well, see, that's the thing. Like, you can have a game that is artistic, but is also very entertaining, and so it is both. But most games are going to be either one or the other. For example, Call of Duty is entertaining. It is not meant to be art.
Yep.
In that sense. So while there might be some artistic expressions in it, that's not what it's meant for. It is an entertainment game.
Well, that's what like
Whereas,
Castle Crashers, the greatest game of the millennium, is an entertainment game.
and then you have other games like I mentioned, like What Remains of Edith Finch. That game is very much an art game. It's not so much an entertainment game. But then, like I said, there's other games like Dark Souls 2 where it is both. That is very entertaining, but a lot of people I think underestimate the value that it has as art. Um, and so I feel it is both, and it's one of those rare cases of a game being both, because there's definitely trade-offs whenever you have games that are art, because whenever you're trying to express something like that, it can be difficult to hit all of the different things that might be required of something, um, to make it entertaining while also being able to retain the artistic side of it. There are some games that do it beautifully, absolutely.
Yeah, no, you're right. But I mean, that's all I mean by a gray area game, is one that hits both categories, that you can't put in either one.
Hmm.
And I mean, I enjoy both games. I enjoy
I
both,
think The Witcher 3 can be both. I think it can be both.
and I enjoy plenty of games in both categories. I put Fallout 4 more in the entertainment game. I put it pretty solidly in the entertainment category. And I mean, it's one of my favorite games to play. Same with
Yep.
Red Dead Redemption. It's definitely an art game, or at least leans way heavier on the art side than an entertainment game. But I mean, like,
Hmm.
I put probably an equal number of hours into both games.
Yeah.
So I mean, in Castle Crashers, the greatest game of all time, is only an entertainment.
Walking shitpost. Anyway.
Yeah, there's a reason I got my name, and there's a reason I'm a walking shitpost, is because I enjoy the Fallout 4 game more than a lot of other fantastic games. That's how you become a walking shitpost. Is
You embrace the Todd Howard meme.
I embrace it, and you know what? I would.
I'm surprised Fallout 76 isn't your favorite game of all time.
There's no defending that, even as a shitpost.
That's how you know it's bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's legit. I for as much as I enjoyed Fallout 4, I haven't put 5 minutes into 76 because I know I wouldn't enjoy it.
Yeah, and you know what? The sad thing is that's completely understandable.
Yep.
As a fan of the Fallout franchise, I refuse to touch that game. I refuse to acknowledge that it exists outside of to make fun of it.
Yeah, it's
Hence
it's
why I'm
it's
the resident douchebag.
barely even worth making fun of.
The
No,
Steelbook.
it's not because it's been done to death. It's so terrible, and I feel like Bethesda knows it's so terrible. It's not even fun to make fun of anymore because it's just so well known.
I will say, the Steelbook is nice to hold.
Yeah, and
They're 30 cents worth of steel.
I'm sure the
Yeah.
canvas bag would have been fun too.
It was nylon.
I
Remember, it was.
know that was the joke. Court.
That was the joke.
Yeah.
Yeah, the canvas bag is probably nice too, but
Or the blue tarp hoodie.
yeah,
That was $300.
yeah. No, I mean it's one of the things that I can't stand about games is there are games that are just put out there for corporate greed. I'd put COD in that category because
Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
feel like that's true.
that's the only reason
Oh
they
yeah.
come out with a new one every 6 months, and regardless of whether or not I'm a walking shitpost, it's like
And
that
that's
I can't stand or defend corporate greed.
and also
That's
that's
why I'll
the
never play 76. It was a cash grab, pure and simple.
yeah.
Yep.
And that's also the reason why Battle Royale has been popping for the last couple of years is because of corporate greed.
Oh, it's just a constant cash cow for all these companies.
Yeah. Like Fortnite was basically Epic Games like major cash cow that basically launched them into competitor like with the Epic Game Store in competition with Steam all because of Fortnite.
Yeah, one of the Fallout or not Fallout. Jesus Christ, Total War Troy. I haven't picked it up because it's an Epic's Games exclusive. I don't support corporate greed. I don't care how good the game is. I'm not going to support it.
I mean, it was free the day it came out.
Yeah.
So I bought it for $0.00 and $0 in tax, and so I own it technically now. I just deleted Epic Game Store off my computer recently, actually,
Yeah,
Oh.
because and Troy was not that great anyway, so I'm not really missing out. Warhammer is much better.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, so games is art. It's definitely an interesting topic because you can get into these long conversations of defending or attacking different things and different viewpoints because a lot of it is kind of subjective. There are some objective points that you can raise. I think my art evaluation of art thing with Dark Souls is kind of more of an objective viewpoint. With about like looking at how you evaluate art in real life, it's kind of similar with this as well.
but I mean, you could say the same thing about Doom, which when it came out
The
was
first Doom,
the first Doom, which was like almost objectively just an entertainment game. It didn't really have much of a story, but if you want to put it in the art category, because it did.
I think it falls into the art category for a lot of the same reasons I put, excuse me, I put Dark Souls in is because it basically spawned a genre.
Yeah, no,
It's
no,
on
no.
top
I'm,
of
I'm
that
not. I'm
because
not
it was so
saying.
good.
I'm not saying it doesn't belong in that category because it was.
It was made for entertainment value, yes, but I think it belongs in both.
That's fair. Yeah, no. I mean, I'd put it more in the gray area category
Mhm.
too, because I mean, especially with like Doom Eternal, actually had a story and a
Yeah.
half decent one. So,
hmm Yep.
but yeah,
Yeah, and it all kinds of comes down to what games truly are versus what we expect them to be. I don't think whenever Dark Souls came out, I don't think FromSoft believed that they were creating what was essentially a new genre, a new genre that would come to dominate the game space for a while.
yeah, yeah. No, I agree. It's just it's one of those topics where it's like it's almost an evergreen topic because literally every time a new game comes out, it might you know
Yeah, it might cross that threshold.
yeah.
So back to my hot take about games that focus more on being art than entertainment, and if they can't get it right, they turn out shit.
Mhm.
Last of Us Part Two, probably prime example. Focus.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so Last of Us Part 2 was, and this is going to lead us into our third section here, expectations versus harsh truths. Um, I went into, when I heard The Last of Us Part 2 was coming out, that I could not talk about anything else for like 2 days because I was just so excited. And I maintained that hype up until I heard a particular announcement that, hey, we're not going to have a multiplayer. And I was just like, oh, well, that's incredibly disappointing. But I'm still going to buy it. It's still going to be a great story. And then the leaks started.
Oh, the leaks.
The leaks started coming out, and to say the least, I was not particularly enthralled by what I heard. But I did maintain a little bit of hope. I hoped that the leaks were wrong. And as it turned out, they weren't. They were absolutely correct. Um, and oh boy, let me just say, to anybody out there that has not played The Last of Us Part 2, has not watched anybody play The Last of Us Part 2, do not buy it. It is not good. Um, watch somebody play it. There's a couple YouTubers that have a very good playthrough of it where they sit and they critique it as they play through. Um, that is probably the best way to experience it because it is really not worth the money to put into it. I am 100% certain of that. Now, there are people that enjoyed the game, genuinely enjoyed the game. My supervisor at work, um, he enjoyed the game. Uh, my manager at work did not at all. Uh, it's it falls into a lot of what do I want to call it? It falls into a lot of traps. It uses it overly uses tropes, um, and oh boy, the amount of what do you want to call it? Subverting expectations.
The meme.
The meme at this point, subverting expectations, just is insane. Tori, do you want to talk about it at all before I start rambling?
All right. So we're gonna jump off from the subverting expectations point, right? One of the main things, like I think even I think it was a Korean or a Japanese streamer that was playing the game. After he witnessed Joel's death, right? He took the game out of he took the game out of the system and immediately started cutting it in half in scissors. And it's basically the same trap that The Last Jedi fell into. We all knew that Joel was going to die. We just didn't want him to die like that. Or maybe even that, like we all knew that he wasn't going to live. He needed to pay for his actions. But
Mm-hmm.
having him die without even putting up a fight is that's just against his character. Especially like what led him to being in that trapped position. He wouldn't have given up his name, or Tommy would have
He might
obviously.
have. He might have. I mean, like one of the problems with the whole game is like the whole series is, people acting out of character and not actually following through on their trains of thought. That's literally the whole game. The whole game is just we have like this is the person's character. This is how they do things. This is how they think. And then at the last second, they just don't.
Yeah.
And it is one of the most frustrating experiences because characters whenever you build them up, like, this is who they are. When you build them up like that, you come to expect, okay, then they're probably going to act like this.
Like,
And then when they just completely ignore all of the character growth and development that they had to just do something else, it just doesn't make sense. Not to mention that the game is at war with itself, with what it's trying to tell people and how it's trying to characterize their own characters at times. Abby. Abby is one of the most loathsome characters because she just doesn't make sense from any perspective.
I was actually going to start talking about her. So, what I think it was the first time that Abby was fighting Dina and Ellie.
Mm-hmm.
Abby should have killed Dina. There's no reason why she shouldn't have. She should have killed Dina when she had the chance, or even Ellie. Like she didn't even give, like, Joel saved her life and she didn't give him a chance. Why is she giving those two a chance when they've been actively killing her partners and actively trying to kill her? It makes no sense. No sense whatsoever.
Yeah, it just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make sense for a characterization. It doesn't make sense from a story perspective. Not to mention that in order to get there, you have to ignore all logic at that point. We're also not going to talk about the fact that Tommy gets shot in the head but survives without almost a scratch.
Yeah, and then
Which makes no sense. One of the only interesting characters that was actually developed in the game, whose name I can't even remember right now.
the Asian dude.
Yeah, who, because he's barely important, but he has the most interesting character of any of the new characters. He just gets killed in a half a second. A
Yeah.
half a second after he actually enters the story in a meaningful way. After there's been some development, he just gets killed in half a second, and there's no, they never talk about him again,
Nope.
ever. Like, why? Um,
And and
the entire end of the game is complete dog shit, without a doubt. And I I wanted the leaks to be wrong, and not only were they correct, it was actually worse than what it was made out to be with the leaks. And the leaks made it out to be pretty bad.
yeah. One of my main things about it was the whole entire plot line, which Druckmann was like, yeah, I'm like you could feel that his ego was showing throughout the entire story.
Oh yeah.
Can literally just be summed up in 3 words: revenge is bad. That's legitimately the entire.
Except when it's not.
Yeah. And like,
That's kind of the problem. Is there's like it's trying to tell a revenge story, but with the message that revenge is bad, but without anybody really ever getting revenge other than Abby.
and we're supposed to think the character that has lost in the end
Everything
everything
is the bad.
it wasn't even Abby. It wasn't even the main antagonist. It was
No.
Ellie. Ellie
Yeah,
lost everything.
here's the thing. By the end of the game, they have so thoroughly made her out to be the bad guy. It is like it, this comes down into another point, which is the whole tropes versus stereotypes. One of the things that we've come to expect from games journalists and people of that ilk, for lack of a better term, is this social justice warrior kind of pandering kind of thing. They literally go so far as to have to make out Ellie and Dina as bigots because they use arguments like these people aren't like us, which is the most stereotypical bigoted thing a person can say.
It's it's funny because gaming journalists are legitimately killing the gaming, just gaming as a whole with what they're putting out with Kotaku or Polygon or PC Gamer. And it's turning the silent majority, which is gamers who legitimately just doesn't care about politics or social justice, They just want to have fun. They just want to experience the game.
Yeah, a lot of people are just play games to try to experience, like try to get out of, dealing with the real world.
Yeah,
Again, back
escapism.
to games as entertainment. Most people use games as entertainment. That is what most games are designed for. So whenever you try to force and ham fist real world issues into games, it's not it's not fun
Well,
and
No.
it's not entertaining, and it's honestly it's not art
the other thing,
either.
the other thing too that like you're absolutely right, Jordan. The other thing too, it's like they're real world issues in games that don't take place in the real world. So like Last of Us 2, for example. It's a post
Yeah, we're talking about
apocalyptic.
30, what is it, 20, 30 years after a zombie apocalypse, and
Yeah.
they're going to try to tell us about, bigotry is bad. This is a bigot sandwich.
Yep.
Well, the
Because a man said a gay slur uh, at a girl, because during a heated moment where there was almost violence, and by him apologizing, genuinely apologizing, and try to give her a sandwich to make sure that she has sustenance, he is a bigot. He cannot be forgiven, and you must destroy any image of the idea that this could be a good person who made a bad choice in the moment.
well the thing that yeah, it's the thing that pisses me off most about like games like that. It's a post-apocalyptic setting, so like society's collapse. So you're focused. You're only like if you were to ever if things were to ever go like that, you're only uh like object is survival. You're just trying to survive. So it real world like caring about stuff like that is I think good in the real world and stuff like that. But in a post apocalyptic setting, that is probably
The
number
bottom of the totem pole.
1001 of the things that you're going to worry about or care about in a world like that. I mean, it's
In a world where you can die so quickly, where you have this settlement that is built up, where if something goes wrong, you lose a bunch of people. They're just dead. There's nothing you can do about it. And the world is incredibly dangerous and incredibly deadly. You have groups of people that are raiders that could attack and wipe out a large portion of your village. If your biggest concern, if something that you're going to spend a decent like a decent hour on is just that, oh, this guy used a slur, it's it's kind of ridiculous.
It's
Like,
off-putting.
yeah, it's incredibly off-putting because this is not an issue that a post-apocalyptic society should be focused on. Should it be addressed? Yeah. Sure. I'm sure that, again, how Tommy's wife acts is very much correct. He talked to him. The guy apologizes. He seems genuine in his apology. He makes her a sandwich with, what was it, steak?
Steak. It
which
was it
which
was
is
not
which is
great.
not exactly an easy commodity to come across in an apocalyptic society. He gave up something that had real, genuine value to try to say, "I'm sorry. What I did was wrong."
but he's
And the
the bad guy in
response to
the
that,
game.
is never forgive him. He's a bigot.
That's why I like Japanese like video games companies like over these past few years is because they don't give a shit about social justice shit.
No,
They just want to make games that are entertaining, like Nier, right? You play as a like a gothic,
I got Lolita.
yeah, a gothic Lolita, and the designer is just like, "Why'd you make her that way?" And he's just like, "I like the way that they look," and it's just you're just like, "Yeah, that's cool," but it's also just a great game to explore and to look into. Like,
Experience. It's another art game.
yeah, it's just that's why I think like Japanese companies are like about to like hit it big is because most gamers don't really want that fucking social justice shit forced
Yeah,
onto them. They're already
I,
trying to escape it.
I feel like a lot of the social justice stuff is beginning to come to a head in gaming. it's kind of gotten to a point where I think it's about on the edge of collapse. I think we're going to see again, Japanese companies especially that don't deal with this at all. I think we're going to see them explode in popularity and see their games get massively like bigger success rates, and see a lot of our Western companies start to not do as well.
I don't know. It's one of those things. You play video games to escape, and it's one thing if you enjoy playing a game that is more takes place in a more real world setting to deal with real world issues. However, if you're playing a game that focuses only on a post apocalyptic society, uh, act as though it's a post-apocalyptic society. You wouldn't worry about that shit in a post-apocalyptic society. I can't even talk.
Society.
Society. You have you have a game. You have a game that is trying to be as realistic as possible with the story parameters in the world it's created, and then in the second game you don't focus on that to focus on real world problems, and it takes you out of the game. You don't enjoy the game as much,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
and the whole point of these games is to enjoy them. That's what makes them sell. That's why The Last of Us was a success, is because
and the thing is, right? So like if that specific interaction added something to the story, it would be it would be worth it. You know, it would, again, if it adds something, then it's fine. The problem is it doesn't actually add anything
It was a throwaway
to the
line.
story. It was essentially a throwaway line that they spent an hour on, and it never actually had any impact on any of the characters or the story.
And we don't even get to see the scene until later on in the game what that
Yeah,
makes.
when they decide to remind us that, oh yeah, this happened.
well, I mean, that's the thing. It's like I could understand if it was a story beat that was like, okay, the mask is starting to slip on this evil character who's been acting.
And that's the thing. It's not even a main character. It's a side character that you see for all of 2 minutes.
Yeah. He wasn't even a
Or if
major
you count,
character.
or if you count the cutscene with him that comes up later in the game.
Yeah.
He's talked about, like, he himself has talked about for maybe 20-30 minutes total over the course of the entire game.
Yeah, especially
You
like
never see him after the opening, other than the cutscene, which technically takes place before the opening.
Well, one of the best villains I think in video games, at least my opinion, is Micah Bell.
Handsome Jack.
Yeah, well, yeah, you're not wrong. But Micah Bell in Red Dead Redemption 2.
yeah.
Mhm.
It's one of those things like, okay, again, you're a setting. You're an outlaw. You're a group of outlaws trying to survive, and Micah Bell is one of these outlaws, right? Well, Micah
Mhm.
Bell is incredibly misogynistic. He's a whole bunch of stuff. He's racist and stuff like that. It's
And that makes sense
it
for the
makes
time period. That
sense.
Oh
makes sense.
yeah,
It
it's
makes
that
sense.
it
It makes sense for the time period, but the other thing too, it's like those are like those all of that shit is just throwaway stuff to get you to dislike him, but it's also the mask
But it
starting to
but it
fall
also
on the
makes
character.
but it also makes sense for that character whenever you look at the time period in history. That kind of feeling, that kind of attitude, that kind of behavior, that wasn't uncommon. That was actually the norm. And so to give a villain that kind of characteristic, that makes sense. It's a way to make you hate him because obviously he's terrible, and this is kind of a way to prove it. But it's done in a way, and it's handled in a way that makes sense
Well,
within the story.
and the other thing too, it's like it not only does it make sense in like the time period or whatever, but it also makes sense why other characters would hate him for it within the Vanderlyn gang, and that's because there are characters of color, there are women and stuff like that are important to the gang's survival, and Micah
Mhm.
Bell being disrespectful to them actually makes the not only does it make you hate him, but there's a reason that you hate him, and that's because one of the better characters in the Vanderlyn gang, in my opinion, is Lenny. I love Lenny, but
Yeah, Lenny was great.
Lenny is more useful than Micah in in the story and like for the survival of the group. That's why you dislike Micah. That's why Micah is the villain, is because he is less useful, more evil than the character that and characters that he's actively hating.
Yeah, Charles too.
Charles, um,
Uh, the John's wife.
yeah, um, Abigail, and Tilly.
Hmm.
Mm,
So I mean, it's like it's. But the other thing too, it's like those moments are used as sort of the mask slipping moments in the story
Yeah,
when
and it reveals that character as a bigot, and that can be addressed, and that would make sense. Like you might have somebody that that takes issue with that. Few and far between, maybe in that time period, but you as a character, like you as a player, can be like, oh yeah, this guy's a dick. It's kind of obvious. Like these people that that he relies on, he's like actively against just because of superficial qualities. And in that case, that's not activism. That's just understanding how to portray characters and understanding time frame and history and time period and how to use those things effectively.
And I mean the other thing too, it's like there is a lot of social justice in Red Dead Redemption 2, but it's all looked at through the lens of here's why the other people in the gang you know don't also dislike these characters, is because you need them to survive.
Hmm.
Like they
yeah.
are actively helping your
Red
survival.
Red Dead Redemption 2 took the social justice tropes that we've come to expect and actually did them well in a way that was respectful and respected history. And I think that that is absolutely how you're supposed to handle trying to do social justice in games.
And it also used, like, some of those moments were used to progress the story. You
Yes,
can address problems like that, and you can be inclusive. It just also
but
has
you need to make it
a
realistic. You
good
need to
story.
Yeah, you need to make it realistic. You can't just throw this crap in and then expect everybody to be like, "Oh yeah, that's totally cool. That's obviously wrong." Like, no, we know that it's wrong. Nobody in 2020 is saying, "Oh yeah, you know what? People based on skin color, yeah, I hate them, and that should be totally cool." Like nobody thinks that that's okay anymore, other than a tiny, tiny, tiny fraction of a tenth of a percent
Of people who
of people that play video games in the USA.
and
Let me
also,
Yeah.
be clear.
um, you know, are also hated by the other 99.99% of society.
Yeah, these like the people that do think like that. Nobody thinks that those are like, oh, those guys are cool. No,
They're
everybody hates those guys and calls
they're
them out whenever they
actively
come.
turning people against them by
Yeah,
staying loud.
yeah, exactly. That's the thing. And for some reason, these people with college degrees can't understand that these people are already hated. They think that racism and sexism is the norm, and it's just not even remotely close to true.
It's that sort of stuff in video games is a turnoff, because you're trying to teach people lessons that they already know and ham fisting it into what otherwise might be an enjoyable experience, because 99% of people already know that's a bigoted thing to say, and you don't have to make a big deal out of it, unless you don't even have to put it in your game, because most people already know that uh, slurring a gay character isn't good. And I mean,
Yeah,
the
I
other thing.
mean, like it's kind of obvious. Like, and most people are pretty like familiar with the idea that like, hey, being a dickweed based on immutable characteristics is not okay. But for some reason, large parts of like the like game developers and the journalist community think that that's some kind of revolutionary idea. Like that's not true, because they were in a Call of Duty once and somebody called somebody a word, or or they talked about
we need
sleeping
to
with
bring
somebody's
back
mom.
bullying. That's all I gotta say.
We need to bring back bullying.
We need to bring back Modern Warfare 2 and Black Ops 1 lobby game chat back.
Oh, dude, that would be the day.
But no, I mean the other thing too. It's like the only reason these companies do it is because it gets good.
It
It
gets
gets good,
them nice trending Twitter hashtags.
and it gets them love from like these game journalists and stuff like that. And it's like you don't have to try that hard for inclusion. I don't think anyone in no one normal played The Last of Us 2 or The Last of Us and, hated the sections where they were Ellie because, oh, I'm playing as a woman. It's like, Metroid is a good example of you can have an audience of mostly dudes play a female character and not give a shit because it's just not brought up.
Horizon Zero Dawn's another one.
Another good example.
Yeah. Like
It's
I liked playing as Aloy. It was nice. Like
Aloy's a
I
phenomenal character.
yeah.
and I mean it's one of those things. It's like they you don't have to try that hard. If you have a good character, it doesn't matter if it's a
And that's
man, a
that's
woman,
one of the
gay,
problems that
straight,
we that's one of the problems
trans.
that we have, right? Is people are trying to create strong female characters or strong gay characters. No, no, no. What you do, you create a strong character and they're gay. That's all you do. That's all you have to do.
It's like their characteristics are just to be a strong female character. That's all, and that's no character.
That's not a strong character.
No. It like if their characteristics is they're strong and they're female, that's not really a character. That's not a character that people can invest in.
Yeah. Like that's the thing, right? So you have Aloy, who is a phenomenal character, and she's a woman, but being a woman is not her character.
Being smart is being
Being smart is, being intelligent, being resourceful, being determined. Those are the things that make her character.
yeah.
And she's a very strong character who is a woman. And
Hmm.
guess what? I don't know anybody that thinks that Aloy is a bad character.
No, I don't think so either. Another
And
good one.
Horizon Zero Dawn is a phenomenal game, and
Yeah.
it deserves all the praise that it gets. And the funny thing is games journalists that can talk and care about all this, representation in games, never talk about Horizon Zero Dawn at all.
No, they don't. And it's a damn shame because it's one of the best PlayStation exclusives out there. And that's one of
Yeah,
the reasons why Sony's putting the new Horizon Zero game on the forefront of the PlayStation 5.
yeah, and I really hope that it lives up to the last game that we had, because the last game that we had was absolutely phenomenal.
No, yeah. I hope it builds upon what they had, just like what Terminator 2 did with Terminator,
Yeah, exactly.
which is Sarah Connor, also another, great character that just happens to be female.
Hmm.
Never gets brought up.
Absolutely. Yep.
Sigourney Weaver and Aliens.
Yep.
Hmm. Yeah, and that's the thing is like people discount the fact, like when people think of strong female characters anymore, they don't think of strong characters that are female. They just think of women that are strong.
Like
And
Ray.
yeah, and it's so stupid. It really is. Like it's not a difficult concept. Like all you have to do is you just make a strong character and then give them the trait that you want. It's Nobody's going to be upset about that.
Well, one of the things too, to bring it back to Fallout, like I shared a video with Jordan that was all of the Fallout companions ranked from worst to best, and the consensus best companion character in all of the Fallout games is uh, Victoria.
Oh yeah, Victoria was great in New
And
Vegas.
she's a character that has honest to god real motivation. She is a believable enough badass that you could see her surviving in a like surviving a nuclear wasteland. And oh yeah, she's gay. You
Yeah.
don't like her because she's going to sleep with the player character or anything like that. You like her because she's a strong-willed character that is exceptionally well written, and you know moves the story along.
Yeah, no, she's great.
And I mean,
Uh,
that's how you do inclusion. You include these well-written characters, and I don't know, people might like them.
Yuna from Ghost of Tsushima, another great female character that actually moves the plot along. That's the character that actively gets
And
Jin,
by the way, I think you mean Veronica, not Victoria.
Yeah, my bad. I'm thinking of
Yuna.
someone else.
Yeah, Yuna actively pushes Jin to do the things that he does in Act 3 to get his shit together. Because after,
Yeah,
because after,
she's a phenomenal supporting character, and guess what? She's a woman,
yeah, because
and they handle that appropriately for the time period as well.
Yeah, because after Act 2, Jin was lost. He didn't know what to do, and Yuna's the one that brought him back.
Yeah,
And I mean, that's the thing. It's like video games are escapism. You do it to escape. You do it even if it's even if you have a fantastic life outside of video games. You do it because this is marginally more interesting in the moment. The last thing you want to do when you are trying to enjoy your escapist fiction is be slammed in the face by real world shit.
Yeah, it's like the Black Lives Matter like mural in Miles Morales. Like, I mean, I didn't really we're in a different time with Spider-Man. I don't really think he would really care about all the social justice stuff. I think he'd more care about, oh my god, there's villains attacking my city.
yeah, but it's a problem whenever the cops are one of them.
Yeah. Even though one of the main characters in one of the main supporting cast in the first Spider-Man game was Jefferson, Miles's dad, who was black and
You're
also
right
a
there, buddy.
cop.
I think your mic cut out.
Who, me?
Yeah.
Yeah, it did for a second.
Oh. But yeah, let me repeat what I was saying. Miles's dad is in the first game, and he's black, and he's a cop, and he actively helps out Spider-Man. Like in the Spider-Man games, the cops aren't portrayed as bad people. In the
Just as
Spider,
maybe incompetent.
yeah, just in the Spider-Man universe, like they're not portrayed as bad people. So it just kind of makes a bit of just kind of off-putting sense that Black Lives Matter started on police brutality, but in that type of universe, we don't hear anything bad about the cops.
Well, I mean, that's the other thing too. It's like you can create a world where that is an issue. Batman, like the Batman universe,
Yeah,
Gotham
Yeah,
City
hmm
cops are notoriously
corrupt
corrupt
individuals.
individuals. And guess what? It's addressed. It's part of the story.
they
Batman, the,
ba-
the universe of Batman, Gotham City, is a well fleshed out fictional city, and it's fine if you want to put like an aspect of real life into a fictional city, but
But don't you
recognize that.
know, Batman is a Mary Sue more so than Ray.
mm, mm,
Mm,
even
Yeah,
though he actually has something called like trauma that Ray does not
and
have.
training,
Yeah.
and
training, and the ability to learn
Like
and
he
to
was he was the one that was
fail. He's failed
you're
before, or
right.
like actually failed.
You're right. I
Mm,
don't like Batman anymore because of that.
yeah,
Not
yeah,
he's a
true
well
Mary
he's
Sue.
he's a better written character, and all of that, and the world is more fleshed out. But you're right. I don't like Batman anymore.
Inconsistent, but yeah, no, Batman's terrible.
No,
Mm,
but I mean, it's just
true
it's
Mary
one of
Sue.
those things. Like, okay, that's fine if you want to put that in a game, but address it, build a good story around it, and people will enjoy it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
but ham-fisting it into a situation where it does not
Into a
matter.
completely unrelated thing.
Just know
Mm-hmm.
that
Yeah.
it's going to turn off gamers
Yeah.
and just turn off people in general, which I think is what you're seeing. Why, which is I think one of the reasons why, like, there are movies and TV shows that and games that do exactly that. Last of Us being an example. Last of Us 2 being an example of that, where it's like, okay, like you get to watch in real time as your game suffers because people don't, real honest to God people, not just the people that these games journalists see on Twitter,
The blue
don't
check
like,
marks.
yeah, the blue check marks, don't like that game, apps don't like that game, don't like that story,
It
and
was
there's a reason that they don't.
did you guys hear about the person that posted up a photo of like their home in Animal Crossing and just got ratioed because she had like what they called Afro puffs?
No, I didn't hear about that, but that sounds about what I'd expect
So
from
it was
Twitter.
a British girl who's was playing Animal Crossing and like posted online of like her character. It was basically just like a, hey, look at this, isn't this cute and fun? But she had what are called I think they're star buns or something like that. Like there it's a black hairstyle, and then she got like doxxed and stuff by all these lefty people who probably don't even play Animal Crossing or games in general on Twitter. Got like doxxed and like got like death threats sent to her and stuff like that, all because she had this hairstyle in Animal Crossing. And it's like way to win hearts and minds by threatening and
Dude,
utter.
it's Twitter. I'm not surprised.
Yeah,
Well, I
but
mean, it's just it's anyway.
outrageous.
It's one of those things. It's like okay, she was probably playing Animal Crossing to avoid all the all that bullshit, and then got dragged into it because these people are paying attention now to video games. And it's like, fine, make all make put that shit in your games. I'm
Watch
not
them
going to play
flop.
them. I'm not going to
Yeah.
play them. Most people
It
probably aren't going to play them. Watch them flop.
Remember, social justice warriors can't create their own art. They have to destroy others. Like
Yep.
like they themselves can't create art worth a shit. Like there was like the first book that didn't have like a male character in it that was like a sci-fi fantasy. And legitimately, instead of saying, this guy like shouted or this guy expressed and shit like that, different words of saying said, that's all that they put. And it was not a good book. And
It's just
I was surprised.
it is what it is. It's like these games are going to flop. You're going to watch them flop, and then these blue check marks and games journalists are going to go, "Why aren't these games doing well?" It's like, because they're not good games. Make a good game with that in the as part of the message, and people enjoy it. Red Dead Redemption 2, perfect example. There are plenty of instances of you know
Micah
things
just
that
being an asshole, but it makes sense for his character.
it makes sense for the character, and the story itself is so well written that people don't give a shit that there's SJW sort of like things put in there. It's one of my favorite games of all time,
Oh yeah,
you
Red Dead
know,
Redemption 2 was great.
and
Like
it sold who knows how many copies, made oodles of money
just only on the story alone too.
on the story alone, because the other, the gameplay mechanics and combat and stuff like that by themselves wouldn't sell the game.
Like I think
Yeah.
the ending of Red Dead Redemption 2 was one of the best endings ever. It actually made me feel sad. Like this is Arthur's last stand. He's choosing to save the canon ending, right, obviously. He's choosing to save John from other people because his life is coming to an end. If it wasn't going to be by gunshots, it was going to be by tuberculosis, and he understands that, and he just wants to have John just to have a better life, than he had, and it
It's
was
it's again, it's like create a good story, and people won't care. Or you could even have those aspects in a story, but if the gameplay is so ridiculously amazing, people aren't going to care. but that it all comes down to make a good game, and people won't care if that's in there. Not won't care, but like, won't be turned off. I mean, like The Last of Us 2 isn't necessarily like a groundbreaking, third person shooter, action adventure slash whatever you want to call it.
The
But I
gameplay
mean,
is fine.
the story in the first one
Yeah.
is what pushed it over the top to where, people were considering it one of the better games of all time. And
And
then
now
you
the
you don't make any
sequel.
you don't make any improvements. You don't make any improvements to the story or the gameplay, and then ham fist that stuff in there. No wonder people don't like it.
It's just like what the sequel trilogy did with the OT trilogy. It just soured what made it great. Like all the characters that you originally loved are just now all dead and former shells of themselves. It just hurts what the predecessor, the thing that made it great. It didn't build upon it.
And the other thing too, it's like I don't think anyone would have cared if the new story was out and the new characters were fantastically well written. It's just it's just detracting from what could be a good.
It's a multi-level failure.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's going to just about wrap up our conversations when it comes to games and genres and all that. Well, I believe we're going to do a quick review of Call of Duty Cold War.
Even
We
though,
talked about it a bit earlier.
yeah.
However, we didn't actually give it a review. So, considering we already gave our thoughts, Corey, what would you rate this game overall? Give me your final
Overall,
thoughts.
probably like a D plus. Like, I don't really have that much. The only time I really have fun with multiplayer is when I'm with friends. I'll probably never play multiplayer without any friends. Like if it was just zombies on its own, A plus, or even like if we're going by video game ratings, an S, because they brought back zombies, and that's fantastic. The campaign I know is campaign's probably going to earn a B. Um, Warzone doesn't even receive a grade because it's legitimately just Modern Warfare Warzone. But like it's just such a fall off from Modern Warfare because I remember I would still play Modern Warfare multiplayer by myself. It's just in Cold War I don't feel like I'm going to play it by myself if I don't have a person just to talk to or just to play with because it's bad. Like if I'm playing Cold War by myself, it's going to be on zombies.
Yep. I I have many of the same thoughts. Campaign's good. Pretty good. Kind of fun. Great throwbacks. Zombies is great again, which is phenomenal considering the lackluster Black Ops 4 entry. Multiplayer needs a lot of work. It's going to need new maps. I think some of the weapons need a bit of a retooling.
More weapons as well.
I don't think the amount of weapons is the problem. I think the weapons that are there though
Yeah.
are either way underpowered or way overpowered, and I think that's the issue. Overall, I think I'm going to give this a 68 because it's one short of being great. Uh, just needs that little bit of extra there, and then it's truly great. That's going to wrap it up for my review of the game. Would I recommend it? I think if you're a Zombies fan, you absolutely will love this and enjoy this. Assuming we're getting more Zombies content with the seasons that are coming out, I believe the first one starts in a week or two.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it might be worth it to pick up, especially if you can get it at a discount.
I remember.
If you are not a Zombies fan, you should stay clear of this game entirely until it gets updates.
I remember, like, I saw a meme, and it was like, this guy has played like 1.5 hours on multiplayer and then 14 hours on zombies. And if that doesn't speak louder than words, then yeah, it just zombies is what makes this game good. Multiplayer drags it down. Warzone is non-existent, and the campaign. If you like the Black Ops 1 campaign, you'll probably like this campaign.
Yep. Well, I believe that's going to be all for us today. This has been Jay and Brad and Corey. with the BCJ cast, with the BCJ Bonfire Talk. I hope you've enjoyed your time here. You can find us on our social medias, which will be linked down in the description. If you'd like, please subscribe, leave a comment, tell us about what kind of terrible people we are. You'll just be
tell
feeding
me,
our egos.
yeah, tell me how much you hate Fallout 4, and I will argue with you in the comments.
I would love to see that.
Oh my god, I would love
Beat
to see
up on
that
Corey
too.
as much as you want. He's used to it. And then feel free to just tell me about how I'm such a terrible person and don't deserve to live. I've probably already been told it multiple times this week on Twitter, on top of probably having my life threatened. That's just kind of normal for me now.
It's just normal
But
these days, honestly.
yeah, honestly, whenever you don't have an opinion that's shared by everybody, you'd be surprised what people say and think that they can get away with.
Yeah.
Anyway, I hope you've all had a wonderful time, and we will see you in the next one.